off of Microsoft Edge this time, so hopefully it'll run better.
Oh, nice. This will be the defining moment. There we go. You're live.
Okay.
You are live. Ryan. We are live. Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Nice. Nylox, yeah, you're first. All right, this will be good. Hey, guys.
They were a while ago.
All right. Starting to fill up. Nice.
So we're just going to wait for the questions to roll in. Guys, throw in your questions.
Yep, and we were also going to get CG to join us today, but if you could, guys, keep her in your thoughts. Obviously, you've probably heard that there's a major hurricane going on in Florida, and there's some damage, so obviously we wish her the best as she deals with her crappy day. Hey, Reverse Lee. So while we're waiting for questions, I guess, to start, here's a topic we can talk about.
Sure.
I've realized that I used to make watch purchases purely for logical reasons, and now I buy them purely for emotional reasons. And I picked up my Vostok today, and the reason that I picked it up was I was thinking of an aircraft carrier I was on a couple weeks ago. And this is so random, but I had if you've ever been on a ship, they have like naval chronometers that they run, a different like mechanical clocks wired into the ship. And I don't know what popped this into my brain, but I was in the engine room in front of the control panel where they have like the steam valves, and there was a marine chronometer, and that popped in my brain this morning because I wanted to buy one. And then I'm like, you know what, the Vostok kind of reminds me of that clock. I should wear the Vostok today. That is the weird logic behind my watch choices.
And right now I'm wearing the Eagle 7, and it's kind of the same thing. Like right now I'm just sort of remembering how far I've come from this being like the first watch purchase, and I'm wearing it just to re-jog my memory of how far my collection's come, how far I've come, and everything like that in a short period of time. And it's just refreshing, isn't it? How we have these things and why we wear what we wear. It's really cool.
How do you put up with the pre-ceramic Rolex clasp? I think, as we know, I make fun of it every single time I talk about it. I guess it's part of its charm, I guess, if I wanted to be kind about it. But yeah, it's total crap, and I make fun of it all the time. But it's the way they were. It's like old cars; they have their quirks too, but we still love them.
It's the way all the vintage ones were, really. Like this Eagle 7 has the same terrible pop open clasp. The Seiko 5s do. Yeah.
We take for granted how much the quality has improved in the last 20 years in the entire industry. I mean, watches in general, to James's point, didn't used to be that great to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. You recently bought this Seiko.
Congrats on the
SKX. Yeah, good choice. Beautiful with 11 NATO, 100%. Christian, you should try also a blue leather strap if you like blue. The blue will make that blue in the Seiko pop. It's beautiful.
Let's see. 16233 1991, Datejust two-tone 18K. I used to have the same watch. I had the white with the Roman numerals, and I regret selling it. That's a nice watch. And I know a lot of people complain about 36 mil these days, but it's great. What are your thoughts on a Rolex Daytona Zenith movement as an investment piece? It's talking about investment watches is one of those things. It's like guessing the market. I mean, no matter what I say, there's going to be people that are going to point out years from now that I was wrong about it. So I wouldn't play that game. I had a Daytona. I had the in-house 4130 movement. The Zeniths, I think, they're definitely going up in price. The last year and a half, they've gone up a lot, but they also require more service because they're higher beat. Although Rolex tuned them a little bit differently, but they're a little bit harder to service. Would be my one concern with them. But I mean, they are going up. The GMT Masters obviously have recently been going up a lot. There are just these little weird trends that kind of take off, but I know that's a speculative piece at this point. But I don't really know. I mean, life is funny the way it plays out.
I'd have to say, as an investment piece, make sure you actually enjoy it, because make sure you enjoy the watch, because I think that kind of money as an investment and putting it into a watch is a bad investment in the first place. If you've got that kind of money and you're actually wanting to make logical investments, go into shares and stocks and stuff like that. But yeah, if you're going to invest in a watch, make sure it's a watch you enjoy and you're going to get enjoyment out of until you do decide to flip it. That's my advice.
Yeah, I did that video on why you should never buy a watch as an investment. I know based on the feedback I got, a lot of people disagree with that. But being that that's my stance, prepared to lose money on it, and if you would still enjoy it, then that's a decision to buy the watch in my mind. But Nuno, would you get the SARB 33 or 35? Well, you know what one I own. I got the white dial 35, as you said. I don't know. How do you want to wear it? I think the white is a little bit more dressy. It looked to me like the Grand Seiko, and if you're wearing it to work every day, it's fine. I think the black you can dress down more, but I think I like the white dial, but I would happily own a 33 too. Yeah.
They're both really, really nice. I'm looking at the 035 myself as a future investment, or not investment after talking about investment, but a future buy. I definitely like it. Do you guys own a watch winder? Is it worth buying? I don't own a watch winder, and it depends on your personal budget. If you own, like, in my opinion, if you own higher end pieces in general, a watch winder probably is worth it, because that isn't that the correlation in terms of price isn't that big of a deal. But if you're like me and I don't know, 60 quid on a watch winder is a vintage watch that you could be buying instead, yeah, I wouldn't advise it. What's your opinion?
I actually made a video on that, and that was my takeaway too. So one of my older videos. Long story short, I say that all the time. Actually, I always say long story short. I don't think they're worth it either. You're just keeping the watches running. You're putting more wear on the movement, and I don't get the value. And if my long arguments on that video, but in short, I don't own one. I don't see a value in them. Best dress watch under $500. I would say the SARB is definitely on that list, or anything of the Seiko Presage line. The Sari I'd put on there. I think, Hamilton watches in general. Obviously, I have a Trent, but there's a lot of Hamiltons on the used market under 500 that are terrific dress watches. Some people would recommend Tissot. I know I'm so about Tissot, but I definitely say under 500 they're good value.
The Orient
yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah, good choice.
Way under 500 as well. If you want to save yourself a bit of money and still get a beautiful watch, definitely.
Yeah, you know what, James? I think that's probably the best bargain of the century under $500. I would totally. That's a great suggestion. Wow, one of the few.
Plan on owning maybe 3 good Seiko watches. Is it worth spending a couple of hundred on a winder? No, Christian. I'd advise no. I'm with you on owning 3 good Seiko watches, and I actually do right now. I've got the SKX, the Seiko 5, and the 7A3. And I don't own a winder. I think it's pointless, especially with Seikos. They're not exactly the most expensive pieces in the world. Yeah, don't go over winder.
Renzo, the Longines Max Bill. That's a gorgeous watch. Are those under 500 though?
I didn't realize they were. If they are, then yeah, go on.
If they're that cheap, I guess I need to look at them again too. I thought they were closer to 1,000, but I haven't looked, so you might be totally right. So, is the Eagle 7 your favorite watch in your collection, James?
By far, yeah. I love this piece. Just not only because it's like kind of the first watch I bought, but just because of how great it is. Like, and I paid £12 for it. £12 for this watch, and it's on a Jubilee bracelet. It's running on the Miyota 8100A, and it looks beautiful. It is beautiful. It's just such a great watch, and I just advise these to anyone. If you're looking to get into watches, like I've been thinking about it for a while to make a video on like best watches to start with on low budget, and the Seiko 5 and Orient 3-star, or Crystal as they're also called, are literally my go-tos for anyone, especially the Eagle 7. So yeah, how about you? What's your favorite? The Monster.
I think I would go by the one that's impressed me the most for what I paid for it, and that would be my Seiko Monster. That watch, every time I look at it and I think of what I paid for it, I think what an incredible watch it is for what I paid for it. And then the SARB would be in second place for sure. Yeah, I mean, I like all my watches, but if those, I've said it before, those are the 2 that if I had to get rid of everything else, I'd keep those 2.
Fair enough.
Wow.
Johnny's bought original Swiss machinery to make the chrono movements for their Air Force. Yeah, it's true.
If you want to get a great Chinese chrono, what about the Seagull 1963? I mean, that's where I'd be spending my money. That's an awesome watch.
What's the best way to sell a watch? Is it worth selling an inexpensive watch, $150? I don't think anyone will give me a decent amount on a slightly used Seiko SNZ F15. You got to remember, there's a market for everything. At the end of the day, you bought it, which means someone else will also buy it. And if you're in the market range of, like you said, you want to get 3 nice Seikos, then it is worth selling your lower end pieces, in my opinion. Whilst to some people it will be pittance, but if you're looking at Seikos, it's not pittance. It's going to be half of the budget of a good Seiko. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's funny too, if you want to play the whole investment game, the watches that I've usually gotten the best deals on would be like watch under $150. You'll pick up on these like eBay auctions for next to nothing, and you can flip them usually for twice what you paid for them if you're smart. Not that, again, we're recommending watches as an investment, but I mean, that's a pretty safe market to kind of figure out what you like, and there's a lot of value in that price range. What's your opinion on Tudor style? I know we've talked about this a lot. I have an old Tudor. I have a Tudor sub from the 60s that you'll never probably see. Really don't like it that much, if I'm honest. It just sits in a safe and keeps going up in price every year because people keep collecting them. But the new ones, I love the new Tudors. I was just in an AD a couple weeks ago. I was looking to have my Breitling, the Sapphire, scratched. And when I was in there, I was sucked over to the Tudor case, and I was drooling over the Black Bay, especially with the red bezel. I think that watch is so sexy. I love the new watches. They look stunning. Yeah,
the Plagos, or however you pronounce it, the blue one, in my opinion, is just beautiful as well.
Yeah, Mr. Car Guy 20. The ST19 movement. I'm not familiar with how those have all been modified different ways. You would actually know that better than I would, to be truthful with you.
IMO, if your watch is under $500, it's not worth selling to buy a better watch. It depends on your financial situation, Nylox. To me, like selling a £50 watch, whilst that's only £50, and to some people that's absolute pittance, to me it's not. You know, it really depends on your financial situation. And if it's under $500, it's still a lot of money. You got to remember it's a wristwatch that's worth $500. It's not nothing. You know what I mean? You can buy a lot of watches with $500.
And it's a mental game too, right? Like if you're buying a watch that's like, you know, I don't know, $3,100. I mean, that extra $500 is gonna. I mean, if you, I don't know, like people play these games. Like they say something is like $19.99 versus like $2,000, right? Or like, I mean, or like $39,997 versus like $4,000. It's like if the $500, if you add that to your budget, mentally it might be enough to convince you to go buy something. Truthfully, that's just the way psychology tends to work. But yeah, I mean, $500. I mean, it goes a long way. And if you're buying expensive watches, you're gonna need that money put away anyway for the first service when you got to deal with that fund.
Yep, exactly.
But have I looked at new Tudor Renzo? I have. The thing is, I don't know if there's any of them that I'd really want. And let me be clear, I want them all. I don't know if there's any I could justify owning because I already have the Seiko Monster and I have my Omega Seamasters dive watches. The one Tudor that really speaks to me now is the Black Bay, but I don't need 3 dive watches. That seems ridiculous. The North Flag I thought was kind of neat, but it's some days I really like it. Some days I think it's kind of ugly, so I haven't really made up my mind on it. But if there's one that I can justify as like a complication or like a style I don't have, then I'll probably fall into the trap of buying one. I just haven't found that one yet.
Yeah, if you need to sell a few cheap watches to get a slightly more expensive watch, you've got serious financial issues to worry about. No, just not everyone's in the same position as other people. Some people only work part-time because maybe they're at college. You know, there's a lot of different scenarios where people would sell their cheaper watches and not be in serious financial issues, you know what I mean? It all just depends on situation, you know. It really does. And been there in that situation myself, I feel I can talk from it, you know. Now owning an Oris and that sort of stuff, you know, I've moved up. So yeah, I feel I can talk from that perspective.
What do we think about Casio watches? I mean, what can I say? I mean, my experience with Casio is very limited outside the G-Shock, but I think G-Shocks I have a massive amount of respect for. And at some point I need to buy one and do a review. The problem is there's so many to pick from that picking the one that I actually want to get is the hardest part of actually getting one. So I think they're really cool. But yeah, three dive watches isn't ridiculous, but you have to understand just the way my brain works is that if I have a bunch of watches sitting around that I don't wear, I actually have like a mental thing where I feel guilty about it. So I have to find a complication I don't have, and then I won't have that guilt. It's just the way I'm wired. I know I'm screwed up. What do we think about Squale? I've never experienced them. I've never owned them. I know there's some people that really, really like them. I don't care for homage watches in general. To me, I think people should create their own designs, not borrow ones from other and just make replicas of with a different name on the dial. And the ones I've seen online, looking at HD photographs, I wasn't really impressed by the details on them. But and who's to say if I had one in person, I got to hold with it, I might feel differently. But I don't have enough interest to even look at them further beyond what I've seen, to be honest with you. But I know some people love them. They think they're great. So no hatred towards them, just not my thing.
Thinking about going into vintage Seiko on eBay below $250 for a Christmas purchase, where in terms of models are really worth buying. It depends on what you want to get, really. I think under 250, the top end of that line, you may be able to get a bullhead, which would be the best thing you could probably get around 250 in terms of a great quality watch with so much into it. But then there's so many options. You know, the 7838 I have, which has got the quartz movement in, the world's first, or the 7828 is the world's first quartz chronograph and all that kind of stuff. There's so many different things you can go into. It just really depends on what you want. There's the Seiko 5s, there's the old SKXs, there's the monsters. You're endless. Under 250, vintage Seiko is endless. So go on and see what catches your eye. That's my best advice to you.
Yeah, James, you're totally right. I mean, you look on like eBay and just see like ending soon auctions. You're going to see so many watches under 250 from Seiko that are really cool. And I wouldn't suggest to start bidding on any of them, but see any styles that speak to you, and then look for a really good example of that. There's so many great Seikos, and if you want to buy new, I mean, you can still find an SKX, you can find a Monster. There's some other watches. I mean, you're not going to get the J versions, but you can definitely get some nice watches under that price point, or maybe like a used Sari too, which is a great watch. I mean, there's actually a lot of stuff to look at.
Exactly. Yeah, no, Alex, I can agree with that. Wait until your financial situation improves, definitely. But the whole reason I set up my channel was to show to people that you can enjoy watches on a lower budget as well. But yeah, I agree. If your goal is to own a Rolex, then don't be buying, I don't know, an Alpha Submariner. You know, it's worth waiting. Yeah, I agree.
Hi, by the way, I just saw you're in the comments, Typeron. Good to see you. Forgive my inability to spell you and your. It should be ask your questions live, not you. That's shows you that it's a weekend here. Wow. Yeah, Kanji Lord Maddox, Nicholas. The Lord Maddox is awesome. I need to look at those. And then King Seikos too. I know those are a perpetual favorite that I should also look at. You have good taste. Wow.
Your grandfather gave you a vintage Omega, gold plated with Liberty coin dial. Is it worth money? If you want to sell it, then go ahead. But something like that, I think, has more personal value than financial value. Especially a vintage Omega. You know, they're beautiful in my opinion. So I don't know. It depends what reference is and everything before we can say whether it's worth. If it's a Geneva, Seamaster, all that kind of stuff. But I really don't know.
Why are solar quartz not as appreciated as much as an automatic? I think it's all the way people are wired, right? You know, if you're talking to somebody like me, I like gears and grease. I'm old school. I'm born in the wrong time period. And to me, machines are what really gets me excited. I appreciate circuit boards, but I don't get as romantically attached to them. So to me, a solar watch is something that I think is super cool and I have a lot of respect for, but I don't get excited about it. But there's a lot of people out there that do. So, I mean, it's nothing like that. I don't think there's anything against them. I just think it depends on the perspective of the people that you're talking about it with, you know. It's like I love manual transmissions, and there's a lot of people who think that they're just old technology and rather have a dual clutch. I think it's just the audience. There's, you know, nothing against solar at all. It's a great feat of engineering for sure. Wow, so many questions are good here.
This is a good one. What are the most underrated and most overrated watches in your opinion? Most overrated, and this is going to get me a lot of hate and everyone's going to shoot me for it. I'd have to say Rolex for the prices they pay, or the prices they charge, and the constant price increases in the past 10 years. But that's just my opinion. I'm not in a position where I can buy them, so I can't really speak about it, to be honest. So I guess if I'm going to go from a watch, in my opinion, owning it, the SKX I think is overrated for what it is, but then again, it's kind of not at the same time. Most underrated, I think, are the Seiko 5s. I think they're truly underrated. You get so much, like, watch for what you pay for. That'd be mine.
I'm going to get even more hate for this. I agree with you, by the way, that Rolex is overrated, having owned many, and I love them. I think that their reputation, they're great watches. They're fantastic watches. And when they originally came out, they were expected as a tool watch. They weren't this luxury watch that they've become today. I think if you take the lifestyle that they become out of them, I think they're a phenomenal brand, but I think people only see them as a lifestyle brand. So I'd say that's the part where they're overrated, and they're obviously, for what they charge, I mean, it's ridiculous, but they're wonderful watches. But I would say Patek Philippe is overrated as well. I think, again, there's another company that they have great people running them. The Stern family is incredible. They make great watches, but I think a lot of that is exclusivity is what makes people really like them. And if you look at the watches on their own, I think there are a lot cooler watches out there at the high echelon of watches. I think Grubel Force, MB&F I've talked about, Parmigiani Fleurier, I mean, obviously Lange. I mean, so it's like, I think people only think of Patek when they get to that echelon, but I think there's a lot of high-end brands that are so underrated. And obviously Grand Seiko I'd put in there too as an underrated brand. I think people see Seiko on the dial and ignore it.
Definitely. I have a Seiko 500 vintage Citizen leather band, love it. Just need to add a manual wind on the 7S26, etc. Yeah, definitely, I agree. But for the price you pay, I think it's near impossible to expect manual wind and hacking and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for the price you pay, you're getting way more watch than what you think you should get. You know what I mean?
Chinaman Champ, did you get your GT3? And if you wanted to be stereotypical, you would get the Porsche design watches, right? But and if you wanted to be a jerk, you get a Royal Oak offshore in solid gold with like yellow gold and put some diamonds around the bezel. If you wanted to be somewhat casual, you might pull off a Panerai. And if you wanted to be, you know, I guess super classy, you'd probably go with a Nomos. You got the GT4. That's an awesome car. Congrats.
Very nice.
I say that as a Corvette guy, but I know those are extremely nice.
Grand Seiko is ace, I agree.
Somebody asked back in the comments if I'd ever owned or if we'd ever owned a high-end homage or fake watch. I never have. No, that's just, I don't want to say anything mean because, again, if that's something you guys want, no hatred to you guys. It's just that's not who I am, and I would never own something like that, so I can't speak to it.
I know it's not high-end.
I have owned the Parnas, yeah.
Yeah, so you have owned a homage in the past.
Yeah, it looked like a Chrono Swiss. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I've owned Alpha Submariner, which obviously I sold on and did for review and everything. And I own a pilot's watch right now from Parnas, unbranded, but yeah, it's obviously a homage to IWC, but I don't think it's a direct homage of anything. I don't know.
Wow, so much stuff. Kurt, hey Kurt, welcome back from your grand adventure. The invitation's always open. If you want to join us, I'll send you a link. Is the SARB the best entry-level Seiko? Well, what are you looking for? If you're just looking for like the best bang for buck, you can get a 4R36 powered Seiko for around $100. I mean, that's bang for buck. You're getting hacking and hand winding. But as far as like a really good quality movement with really good accuracy, sapphire crystal with a really good bracelet, the SARB is definitely going to be the best entry. You're going to get a higher quality bracelet. You're getting solid end links. You're getting the upgraded 6R15 movement. You're getting sapphire. That's the cheapest price point to get those features.
James, after owning your first Swiss Oris, do you see yourself buying another Oris in the future if you have the money, or sell your Oris for like an Oris Aquis? Yeah, I do see myself definitely getting another Oris, and I'm thinking maybe the 65, because I think it's absolutely beautiful. I've tried it on too many times and I love it. But in terms of, it definitely won't be for a while. And in terms of selling the Arctic GT for an Aquis, I won't be doing that because they're two completely different style of watches. And after trying on the Aquis and everything, it looks okay on my wrist, but it's definitely a large watch, and I'd have to get used to it. But yeah, I can't imagine getting rid of the Arctic GT. It's very, very nice.
Can you expand on the hate for Tag Heuer? This is going to be a perpetual topic every time we do a live session. So my hatred for Tag Heuer, which, in speaking with Federico and others, I understand is probably not completely justified. And they have a wonderful CEO in charge of them right now that's doing great things. They have a cheap tourbillon now. I mean, they are going in the right direction. My hatred for Tag Heuer stems from my experience with them in the 1990s and up until the mid and late 2000s, when I was seeing a lot of people that I knew own them, and I just would monkey with them. I'd take them apart, take the case back off, and the quality of them was, you know, I'm not politically correct. It was crap. It was total crap. the bracelets were cheap. You take the case backs off. They have plastic in there. They were very basic movements. And I've said it before, and I'm sorry to offend people, but I've held $50 watches that were as nice as some of those Togs. Now, that's where my hate comes from. Where I've been ignorant is I haven't examined watches from the late 2000s up until probably the last 5 years. And was speaking with a lot of people would agree that they've gotten a lot better and they're making competitive watches for their price point. So I was so turned off by them, I haven't really reinvestigated them. But that sounds like they're on a good path, and maybe the hate they still have to get beyond their history, and because everybody's made bad watches at some point. So Tag Heuer may be totally respectable these days. A lot of people feel that way, but that's where my hatred came from, is that experience I used to have.
I think they're definitely up in their ante a lot recently, and from people who own them, I've heard nothing but good things of the new ones. So yeah, I think they're definitely up their quality a lot, and I think over the next, let's say, 5 years, that stigma is going to change if they continue with the path they're going down. That is, if Jean-Claude Beaver continues to do a good job, we're on for something good.
Renzo, exactly. I mean, the Monaco is a classic piece, and if I'm honest too, I've actually looked at them, and the reason I don't own one of those, I've heard a lot of people that have horror stories of buying Franken watches where there were bits and pieces thrown together. And the other thing too is I've known people that had the originals that to get them repaired or replaced, parts are so scarce that they're like a fortune to get fixed, but they're a classic. And I know that Tag Heuer still makes them in their range, and you can get a Tag Heuer branded one for a lot less money, which, you know, I'm not going to say that's a terrible watch either, but I'd rather have a Heuer one. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of that. And yeah, Chinaman Champ. Yeah, I mean, the no date is it's timeless. I mean, you know, I look back to the Bond movies. Sean Connery had the no date sub, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's weird. It's one of those transitional pieces because there's people that are just passionate, pure enthusiasts that love it, and there's also a bunch of, you know, people that buy it as a status symbol. Unfortunately, they kind of take the rest of the market down. But that's a great watch, and that looks great on the NATO too if you want to try that.
You got a strap code Super Jubilee on your SKX. That's one thing I'd like to upgrade to down the line on mine, because I love my Jubilee bracelet, but that rattle, it makes me want to throw it on the floor.
Christian, by the way, for posting pics, I have a crappy computer apparently, so I can't check right now, but you're welcome to post whatever you want on my Facebook page, and then also on Instagram. We're on Instagram a lot. If you tag us in photographs, so that's a great way for us to see what you have too. We'd love to see what you have in your collection and what you're looking at.
You like your tag, and even worse is quartz. Well, if you enjoy it, then that's great,
fine.
Isn't it? It's on your wrist. That's the best part. So as long as you enjoy it, it doesn't really matter what those idiots on the internet say. That route goes away when you upgrade. Yes, that's what I want.
And I say that, and what am I wearing right now? Of all my watches, I'm wearing my $30 a plated case and a plastic crystal. So I mean, and I love this watch. So again, no hatred. If it speaks to you, good for you.
The 13-pound Citizen, which people say is a homage to everything and looks like a fake Rolex or some rubbish, and it's like, cool, whatever, I like it. I think a light brown NATO makes the watch look any watch look very classy. I have to be honest, I'm not a fan of NATO straps. I'm going to say it here, and I'm going to get slaughtered for it. Oh, sorry. But I'm not a fan of NATO straps, and I'm hoping that will change.
Would you ever purchase a Grand Seiko? Yes, and I would have had one already, if it was not for the SARB 35. So my literal plan was I was going to buy a Grand Seiko. It was going to be the high beat. I'm a purist. I want a high beat one. I was going to get a high beat GMT. And before I bought it, I figured I'd buy a SARB 35 because it looks kind of similar to me. And if I like the SARB, I figured I'd buy the Grand Seiko. The problem is the SARB ended up being a way better watch than I ever anticipated it did. And now it's like I don't have anything on the SARB that I feel is lacking. So why would I buy a Grand Seiko is kind of where I'm stuck right now. But I mean, we all know that I occasionally get impulsive and do stuff. So I would not be surprised if I end up with a Grand Seiko at some point.
Nice. Yeah, the great watches I've heard, and from people who I know own them and stuff, they absolutely love them to bits. So if you've got the money to go get one, I'd say go for it.
Facebook group, there should be a link in the description of this live session right now, unless I screwed it up, which is totally possible. Let's see.
was actually thinking
Oh,
of
you
a
guys
black
are.
one from Orient Maker USA. Nice. What is the smallest size of watch you own? Personally, mine is 36. I have owned a 32 mil, and it was a 50s, no 60s Oris, which I wish I never got rid of. But yeah, they're the smallest. The smallest I own is 36.
Not much discussion of JLCs, Peter. I love JLCs. Actually, I'm guilty of a lot of videos talking about. I'm still on my perpetual search for a Reverso. I love the Reverso, and JLC makes great watches. I mean, and the fact we've talked about this before, that other makers out there like Patek Philippe have used their movements, I think tells you what a great company they are. My only concern with them would be is, getting them serviced. They're the only game in town to service their watches, but I love the Master series and I love the Reverso, and at some point I'm probably going to have one. So yeah, they're great watches. They're awesome, and I think everybody talks about Audemars and Patek and Vacheron. I think JLC is every bit as good, if not better than them, for less money. So I mean, there's the value proposition there too. Bad resale though is the one thing I would say. They have terrible resale.
Definitely. Is watch retail stores dead? Why ever buy a watch from brick and mortar retailer when it's always cheaper online? Being like, as we know that it's cheaper online, but you got to remember not everyone does, and a lot of people still buy from them. It's the way of the market, isn't it? At the end of the day, you can get a lot of stuff cheaper online. There's a lot of stuff you probably buy yourself from stores that you don't realize even you could get cheaper online. So it's just we're in the know and a lot of people aren't. That's the only difference, in my opinion. That's why they're still around.
9-month turnaround for a standard service. Holy crap. Wow. Nicholas, what about Spring Drive? Again, this is just the nature of who I am, and the Spring Drive is an awesome movement, and I would never tell anybody not to buy one. But for me, as somebody that just likes like pure mechanical things with gears and grease in them, it just doesn't speak to me. I want a high beat with that's. The fact that there's quartz in it, which I know makes it a better watch, and again, this is just me being an idiot that it doesn't do it for me. But it's obviously the best movement probably out on the market if we're totally honest. But yeah, I wouldn't look at a Spring Drive. But Hublot is, or if you want to slaughter it, you can say Hublot. I'm not a big fan of those. That the people that I usually see wearing Hublots are not the kind of people that I typically associate with. So I have some negative stereotypes in my brain that would probably keep me from looking at them seriously. But if they like, and again, so nothing against them, but they're not my taste, and I'm sure there's some wonderful people that rock an Hublot too. So, but not my taste.
Retail equals peace of mind, I suppose. Yeah, definitely. If you're buying something for just you, like my dad at the moment is saving up for a Man on the Moon, and I think he's changing his mind slowly to a modern one, like a brand new one rather than that. And I think he may actually be going to a retailer once he finally saves enough, just for that extra peace of mind, because he's not buying it to sell on ever. So buying it at retail price, I guess there is that extra peace of mind, like you're saying. So yeah, if you're not buying to sell on and you're not buying as investment, I don't see why not.
Kurt, I think you could totally rock a sundial. In Hawaii, having so much sunshine, I think it might be very practical there. I know not everybody has the fortune of having sunshine at all the time to use a sundial on their wrist, but you could totally rock it, as long as your dinosaur friends approve it, of course. Chinaman Champ, I know you've had quite a few watches, even Patek, if I remember. So what is your favorite watch you've owned? Obviously, you seem to like your sub, but what is the one that does it for you? Yeah, Kurt, yeah, I guess nighttime kind of ruins the point of a sundial, but then you should buy like an old pocket watch with a minute repeater in it so you can chime that.
Which watch-related YouTube channels you watch and like, not including yourself? Damn it, I was just going to say my own videos. I'll watch all them. I'm joking. Well, one of them's in here at the moment. Well, two of them. Obviously, the person sitting across from me, but Minute Watch. I watch CG. There's many YouTubers I watch. I'm the Watch Guy. The typical people that everyone else watches as well, yeah. What about yourself?
It's funny. Right before we went live, James and I were talking about our favorite watch channels too, and we were trying to get them on. So I baited Kurt. He doesn't want to join us right now, but he's busy editing. I get it. Navsan, who's on the other side of the world and can't join us, we watch him. CG, love her. We were trying to get her on today as well, but she's dealing with some hurricane situations where she's at, unfortunately. Average Bros, I watch them now. I was going to try to get them to join us at some point. We watch a lot of, James and I really like the people that their personality comes through on their videos. There's a lot of great channels out there that make content, but it's very kind of narrative, but it's all about the watch. We like seeing the personality behind the watch as well. So there's so many great channels out there you can watch where you not only are watching the watch for the review, but for the reviewer. And those are the kind of watch channels that I know James and I tend to like.
Yeah, and just honesty as well. That's one big thing for me. If the person I'm watching will say something that might be completely against the grain and get them a lot of hate, but they're just being honest, then I respect that a whole lot more than someone who's going to stick to whatever's politically correct so he doesn't get hate. And I'm guilty of it all the time by saying things that not everyone agrees with, but it's just who I am. Bruce Williams, and, yes. Bruce as well, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely have watched Bruce Williams. His last one I just saw he did too on the Seamaster versus the Tudor was an incredibly well done video. I mean, like the photography and the way he did that, I was blown away by it. Awesome video. And Simon Beach, I've watched Simon Beach too. He's hilarious to watch. Archie Luxury though, I don't watch him anymore. I used to watch him. He was actually kind of somebody that kind of inspired me to get on here, but his later content doesn't really speak to me, so I don't really, nothing against him if you guys like him, but I'm not on his list anymore.
I've never really watched him because when I came into the community, he was already on whatever he's doing right now, kind of thing. So yeah, I've never really watched him.
We talked about Zin. Sorry, we did skip over that. Zin makes really great watches, especially some of the Flieger style ones. I think are really, really cool. And I know somebody was asking me recently too if I like the Zin Navitimer. Of course, I think a Breitling Navitimer. I prefer the Breitling version of it, but I mean, yeah, I mean, Zin has a ton of respect in the watch industry. I like them. I'd say the other German watch in that, well, the two other German watches around that price that I probably like a little bit more though would be Longines and but not Longines, but Nomos. I love Nomos and Stoa are probably the ones in that price range I like more, but Zin is a great watch for sure.
There was just a really good question up here. Doesn't the Boulevard Precisionist quartz render Grand Seiko quartz irrelevant, equally accurate for 1/4 of the price? I actually sell them at work, and I've experienced them, and they are incredible. They're actually really, really great. And I've been thinking about it myself, and I'm not too sure. Like the technology-wise, they've had it for a while. The Precisionist line's been around for a while, and it really, really is great. It's one of the most accurate. Well, was I think the Grand Seiko is actually just a bit more accurate, but yeah, and it's like nowhere near the price. So yeah, maybe I will have to find someone who knows that side of technology literally to the bone, because they seem like on the surface to be the same technology that they're using, and it is ridiculously cheaper. So great question. I don't know.
I know you guys are asking about Andy Hunter and some of these other people. I'd say I'm familiar with them. I've seen some of their videos, but they're not ones that I perpetually watch, and I'll probably leave it there. We don't need to get into that stuff, but not my taste. But you know, best of luck to them. Yes, Nomos is a massive bang for buck. Go ahead.
Yeah, Nomos are beautiful. The Precision line eats battery, needs solar recharging, and they do eat battery, but they still last for a long enough time to justify, in my opinion. To justify the price difference, that is. If they put solar charging on that thing, you'd be in for probably an incredible watch, in my opinion. If you're into quartz, obviously, if you hate quartz, then don't go anywhere near them in the first place. But yeah, so solar charging on that would be the next step, and I think they're working on it. I think Boulevard are working on it.
And seeing some of the discussion going on here, and I can see we're kind of dancing around some of the drama that's also probably been going on YouTube in the last several months, and I think any of the channels that have been associated in some of the drama, either real or otherwise, are ones that I know James and I tend to stay away from and not get too involved in, since we would rather talk about watches than personalities and made up drama. So, you know, whatever, you know, we wish those people all the best, but there's a place for that stuff, and we rather just talk about watches and passionate stuff than get involved in that thing. So those channels are not ones who probably would watch that much.
At the end of the day, we're in this for watches. Like, the community is about watches, and anything that kind of blurs that is not really worth the time, in my opinion.
So you do have an almost okay Chinaman champ. That, you know, that does sound. So it feels so weird calling you Chinaman champ because I've talked to you for so long. I don't know your real name, of course, but yeah, those are really, really cool. And given the ones you used to have, I remember you had that AP as well. I mean, the fact that you respect Nomos I feel very the same thing. That's just a very simply well done watch that just is super cool. And no need to apologize, Typeron. I mean, I get it. A lot of people are getting sucked into this stuff.
Okay, here's a
Wow,
good
I
question.
can't keep up with these comments.
What else comes home and changes their watch? Who else comes home from? I can't read today. Who else comes home and changes their watch to something? Wear at home, a home watch. I'm a freak. I'll put on a watch to watch a movie at home. Yeah, like I wore my Oris today to work, and I've come home and changed to the Citizen. I do the same all the time, and I'm pretty confident Anthony does as well. Am I right?
That's what's so I end up selling off watches because it's the same thing. Like there's like 4 or 5 times a day. It's like, oh, I want to, maybe I should, like, you'll watch a movie or you'll see something, or it's like, and then it's like, oh, and then one of your watches will pop in your brain, and it's like, I'll watch like a Japanese movie, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go pull out my Sarb, and then I'll see like a thing on like, the Cold War with Russia, then I'll pull out my Vostok, and then it's like, it's like I don't know, it's dangerous. You could change watches multiple times in a day, for sure.
Have you ever had to take your watch to a repair shop to be serviced? I think it would be too nervous to leave my watch with a stranger. I'm still yet to have a watch service because I've only been in this collecting for like 6 months, like actually dedicated to it. So I haven't done it yet, but I will be getting a couple of my watches serviced hopefully over the next few months. So I'll tell you my experience of it. I might do that. That's a good video idea because I guess there's a lot of people who have never had a watch service as well, and it'd be interesting, I guess.
I had not, and I just went through this with the Breitling Navitimer, and I don't know if I want to make a video or want to get into it too much, but I had a scratch in the crystal, and there was a little bit of play in the buckle where it folds over, and the 2 pieces weren't lining up perfectly. The quote to repair the alignment, which was basically tightening up a little screw, and to fix the crystal, any guesses? $900.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
$900 to fix a scratch. They weren't even going to replace the crystal. They were going to polish it down and put a new AR coating on it, and then they were going to put a screw into the bracelet or the clasp. $900.
That's ridiculous.
Think of all the great Seikos you could buy for $900.
That is crazy.
Oh my God. These comments are crazy. I can't keep up.
What watches are you guys wearing right now? I'm wearing a Citizen Eagle 7 dated 1984, and Anthony's wearing a Vostok. I don't know which one. Is it Komdurski or the Amphibia?
Yeah, well, it's like you said. You rotate watches. So this morning I was wearing my Rolex GMT Master, and then I ended up I just had a rant. I was looking at ship stuff, and this is so random. But long story short, I thought of a naval clock popped in my brain, and the way my brain connected to it was like, oh, my Vostok's kind of like a naval clock. So then I decided to go wear this thing because I was thinking about ships. It sounds absurd, but this is the second watch I've worn today, and probably will not be the last. But I'm wearing the Vostok. I know, I'm so weird. Sorry. Yeah, Kurt. Well, you replace the crystals and everything else in your watches, so I would have a little bit more faith in your abilities to do that.
Exactly. I'm going to still go pay 30 quid to go get mine replaced, so you're ahead of me.
Yeah, so Chinaman Champ, I know you had an AP, which is kind of the industry standard for screwing over customers on cost. Did you ever have that watch looked at by AP or have any of your watches serviced? Because I'm sure you have some great horror stories you could share in the comments.
So many questions.
I know. Well, I mean, like, go ahead.
So if my SKX breaks, it's probably not worth getting it fixed. Better just to buy a new one. With them being just discontinued, I don't know. Probably not anymore. But I don't know. It depends what breaks in it. I can't. As not a watchmaker, I can't really give you too much advice on that. But no, I'd say get a Seiko 5 because obviously chances are it's the movement. So just get another Seiko 5 that's got the 7S26 movement and use that as a donor watch in case it ever does break. Because then you've got 2 great watches at the end of the day. And yeah, and then it just gives you that option. That's mine.
There's a lot of people on the more common models that you can get to work on them and get them repaired pretty affordably. And I think the other thing comes down to is the watch special to you for other reasons. You know, I know we've talked about this before, but like when I just did my state of the collection, I talked about that Elgin pocket watch I have. When I had that watch repaired, it was already beyond economical repair. Basically, it was not worth fixing. I spent more money fixing that watch than the watch was worth. But because of that being passed on to my family and how much it meant to me, the investment was in the emotional connection to the watch rather than the monetary aspect of it. So if it's something that's very special to you, somebody special gave it to you, I mean, I would totally get the watch fixed. If it's just some random beater watch you have, then I wouldn't get rid of it. But I would, buy another one, and maybe you can part it out on eBay, or maybe you keep it, and at some point you find somebody can fix it for $50. But I mean, it's not a bad situation regardless.
And if that SKX lasts a very long time, that donor watch goes to waste. It depends. It really depends, because if you like the donor watch, like for me, I've got the Seiko 5 because I enjoy it. And at the end of the day, it is also kind of a donor watch if ever it comes to that. Obviously, for me, it's not a donor watch, but if it comes to that, it is a donor watch, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, I agree. If it, like Nylog said, just save, get something better if that's what you're into. But if you really want SKX, get an SKX. But I don't think you have to worry about it breaking down the line anytime soon, to be honest. They're made pretty damn well.
And by the way, I know the 5235G you're talking about, the regulator Chinaman Champ. That watch is gorgeous. And as much as I tell people that I love Lange, which is totally true, that is one of a few Pateks that I definitely lost after a bit. So that's a very nice piece. And if it ever has to get serviced, please let me know what it costs. I'm dying to know. Wow. So Kurt, you took your Monster on your Grand Adventure you just got back from, the one you replaced the Sapphire on, if I remember. How did the watch hold up? Was it the right choice to wear on your little adventure? Have you ever been complimented on a watch? Yes, and it's never the ones you would think would get complimented on. I don't know what James thinks, but if I'm wearing a Breitling or a Rolex or a Maga, a lot of people don't notice it, or the ones that do notice it, it's usually the Rolex, and they'll be like, "Oh, is that a Rolex?" Not because they care, but they just "Oh, it's expensive." The watches I used to always get compliments on were Invictus. I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My Hamilton Trent, I've had several people come up and say the Hamilton Trent is just gorgeous, which is kind of funny too. So those are the two watches. I don't know. What about you, James?
Harness Pilot watch, because it's freaking huge. That's the thing I've had the most compliments on. Like my Oris, no one gives a crap. No one cares. But yeah, it's a $200 watch. If it breaks, go over with it, move on. It depends what your opinion on $200 is, isn't it? To me, if my SKX broke, I wouldn't be able to just move on with it straight away. It's not cheap. It's not. It depends on your financial situation. If that to you is nothing, awesome, good for you. If it's a lot to you, then I understand. Oh,
so Brenzo, by the way, is that a real Rolex thing? That is one of the worst parts about owning a Rolex. Is you get one of two things. You either get people automatically assuming it's real, which is scary, because if they're noticing their watch that much, what are their intentions about it? You almost, in certain neighborhoods, I'd rather people thought they were fake, so they'd leave me alone. The flip side is you get a lot of really insecure people that are upset that you have a real one, so they go around telling everybody that yours is fake, or they ask you if yours is fake because they're insecure about you having something they don't have. It's really weird. You get people are constantly asking that question for never a really good reason.
I actually got a compliment wearing my Commandersky the other day with a rubber band. Told them it was a Russian. Yeah, I get the same with this, and the fact that it's Japanese and people just love it. James, did your poster fall down again? It's always falling down. I need to get more double-sided sticky tape, or just drill into the wall, or just do something that normal human beings do to make a poster stay up. That's what I need to do. But yeah. How often should you have it serviced? What's the longest you've gone without servicing a watch? Just say it's a 10K
comments
fake.
Are hilarious.
Servicing
I used to do that with my president.
Oh, there you go. With the servicing thing, everyone will tell you something different. I've not been around with watches long enough to give you my opinion. I've had watches that are 30, 40 years old that have never been serviced and are still running fine to plus 3 seconds a day. So I can't give my opinion. Anthony, maybe you could give a better one because you've had watches longer than I have.
This is on servicing?
Yeah. How often?
So we've talked about this a lot, and there's a bunch of people that have I don't think there's a good answer to that question. I'll put it to you that way. There's manufacturers recommend intervals. A lot of them say 5 years. Now Rolex has extended, I believe, to 10 years. I'm very much of the mindset you don't service the watch unless it breaks. or unless it starts keeping terrible time. Because I can think of several watches right now that are from the 70s and 80s that have never been serviced that run great. And I've known a couple people that had watches that were 4 or 5 years old that ran great. They took them to get serviced and they've never run right ever since, because some watches, they kind of set in after a while and they'll settle and everything will just kind of be like in an optimal place where they just run beautifully. And you take the case back off and you kind of take them all apart and they have to resettle again. And they're just, if the watch is running great, you're just spending money for the sake of spending money. Now, I know some people out there would say, well, they want the watch to look nice. They want to take scratches taken out of it. I mean, you can certainly have it, polished, which that's a whole other story. And I know people are like, well, if you don't get it serviced, then parts are going to break. But I think anybody that's ever sent a watch in for service knows there's going to be parts that the manufacturer is going to want to replace just regardless. They're going to want to put on new hands and a new dial, and they're going to play all these games to charge you as much as possible anyway. And in some cases, they're actually taking away value from the watch. Like if I send in my GMT Master to Rolex right now, they would destroy the watch because they'd want to replace the dial on it and they'd want to put different hands on it, and my watch would lose $2,000 overnight just because of that. And the watch runs beautifully and I have no plans of getting it serviced. So that's kind of my rant. I think it's unnecessary, really. I don't see a value in it, but there's plenty of articles written online, people that feel differently. So feel free to take that into perspective as well.
Exactly. So Brian Corey says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Couldn't agree more. High-end Swiss brands punish you for buying their watches without outrageous service and repair bills. You end up paying more in servicing than the actual watch, laugh aloud. Yeah, there is some of that depending on what you go with, isn't it?
But now that we have Kurt from Minute Watch offering to do watch service training, we know that we can just send our watches to him and he'll fix them for free. So as long as he posts them on his channel. So let's take him up on that.
Sorted.
Yeah, exactly. The Swiss brands are notorious. I mean, I was just saying, I mean, like, to take a scratch out of the crystal on my Breitling and put a screw in the bracelet, they wanted $900. I mean, that is just like absolute, like absurdity.
Extortion.
It is. It's crazy. And the thing is that they know their market, and a lot of people, there are people out there, and we've met some of these people that want to brag about how much money they spent on the service too, because it's all part of that exclusivity. I spent $10,000 on the watch and I spent $5,000 to keep it serviced because I can afford it and I'm rich and you're poor kind of people, which, good for them.
Exactly.
There's a market for that. I'll take mine to an independent and pay as little as possible.
Same. For the black Seiko 5 Sport, the Seiko 5 range in general offers some absolutely incredible offers, and the SNK range as well. To be honest, Seiko all around, just if you've not got a Seiko, have a look. There's probably something in there that will appeal to you.
Steve, you get charged $80 for a complete rebuild. Okay, yeah. See, the thing is, it's like some watches you can take to independence and get service. I don't know, whatever reason with Breitling, I went to like 5 or 6 different shops around me and they didn't want to touch it. But like a Rolex or a Mag or like an Oris, they take it all day. So it's just kind of weird. Like where I am, I had that problem.
Blue Maker USA is in Japan for so it's under warranty. Yeah, it makes sense if it's under warranty, obviously. Yeah, make the most of it.
Yeah, Mr. Karga, I get your perspective too. I mean, the one thing with watches that needs to get done at some point is there's lubricants in the watch, and in my experience, they usually will go. I don't want to make a recommendation because I guarantee the one person that's going to say this is going to take this. Their watch is going to end up drying out with lubricants and they're going to have issues. But again, I've seen watches 30 or 40 years that ran fine without ever being handled. That said, there are lubricants. They do dry out. And if they aren't changed near the end of their life, they can cause damage to the watch for sure. Just as to your point, if you don't change the fluids in your car, you don't change your oil. I mean, there could be some very expensive repairs in your future for sure. But I think it also comes down to how is the watch being handled, right? Is it something that sits in a safe for 10 years where it's drying out? Is it worn every single day? Is it worn once a month? There's so many different factors to the amount of where you're putting on it that it's really hard to quantify with a service interval. I mean, it's like, cars. I have my Corvette, if I put 30 miles on it in a month, I mean, that's normal for me. Whereas my Lexus, I put, way more than that on it. And so, but to say that they should have the service at the same time for the same things, you wouldn't compare the two because it's totally different usage, right?
bought your dad an Orient Mako with a Pepsi bezel. It's a beautiful watch. When I see it, kind of wish I could get it for myself. It's almost as nice as your SKX. My dad owns the same watch, and yeah, I love the blue on it. That's one thing that I prefer to the SKX, the blue. But in general, I think the SKX is a better watch, and I will be comparing the two. And yeah, so that'll be coming. Anyone here own Orient watches? They seem to be very accurate. It's like any watch, really. Some of them are accurate, some of them aren't, I think.
So, Steve, you touched on something that is very interesting because now with the whole in-house trend, I've actually thought about that too. There's a lot of watches I want to buy, but I'm aware now that the only way you can get them serviced is going back to the manufacturer. You know, and like I've really wanted to get like a glass shoot original, and I know that there's only people that can service that watch are going to be glass shoot. And, you know, Tudor's got an in-house movement now. Breitling's got the B series movement, which is supposed to be spectacularly reliable. But to your point, they've created a monopoly on servicing of those watches. So there's the plus of they're doing that investment in the watch, but now to your point, now you're kind of stuck going to them for service. So it's kind of a win and a lose. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. That's definitely a very good point. And I've had a couple Orients on the Orient comment. I had a Mako, which you've seen on the channel probably. I gave it to a friend. And then I had, actually, James and I had the same Orient. He had a black dial version. I had the white dial version of the Power Reserve, which is a great watch. That ran pretty well for me. And then I had a day-date one that I gave away to that probably lost like 30 seconds a day. But I think it's kind of luck of the draw. I don't think they regulate them from the factory. So you kind of get some good ones, some not so good ones if you're not buying like an Orient Star, for example.
Fossil offer 2-year warranty, not 11. They actually offer under the norm. They offer 2 years. Skagen, though, offer 25-year warranty, which is just freaking crazy. It's more than any company in the world. Yeah, 25-year. They call it a lifetime warranty, but it's 25-year. But that's crazy.
What is the best place site to get secondhand watches? There's no great answer to that because you have to ask. Well, I mean, I made a video on like where to buy Rolexes, and I kind of talk about the different places of the watch market in general where you can buy stuff from. But it basically all comes down to how comfortable you are with risk, because there are certain places you can go buy stuff from, like eBay, where you can get a potentially really, really good deal on a watch. But the flip side is you could get a really terrible watch and overpay for it by a great amount of money because people can cheat pictures and they can cheat descriptions. And the advice everybody comes back to is buy the seller, not the watch. So there are definitely places you can get really good deals on watches, but you have to understand you're getting a good deal, but you're also taking a lot of risk in your purchase. So that what kind of risk are you open to? And some watches too are just really, really rare. Like if you wanted to buy some of these older JDM Seikos, you're not going to find them, you know, in most countries outside of Japan. You're going to have to buy them on places like eBay where they show up occasionally. Whereas like a Rolex, I mean, there's tons of gray market dealers, pre-owned dealers. You have a lot more selection. So it really depends on the watch and how comfortable you are with the risk equation. I don't know, James, how you feel.
I think eBay's the best bet, but obviously you just got to be careful. Christian said he orders from Amazon because they're easy to return if you don't like them. It's a great point. So yeah, try whatever you find most comfortable with. At the end of the day, if you know what you're doing with eBay, you know how to judge correctly on sellers and all that kind of stuff, the right questions to ask before buying a watch. And yeah, there you go. Do that. eBay.
So I will go on record as saying the best watch deals I've ever made were watches I bought on eBay. And I bought some watches for way, way, way less than retail. But I can also say that I bought watches on eBay that were absolute crap, that were hugely misrepresented. And these are people that had stellar feedback ratings. And the way they got around it is they had ridiculously good return policies. And so somebody like me that realized that the watch was a dog would return it. But most people thought they were getting a good deal and didn't send anything back and gave them good remarks because they didn't know that they were actually getting a really poor condition watch that had been over polished or just destroyed for other reasons. So, you know, James, are you still there? I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I muted my mic. I was typing.
Okay, cool.
Keyboard's way too loud. Ending in the weekend, if so. eBay, but never bid on auctions, ended on the weekend. If you can, always the worst time. Auctions and the weekends are the best bet. People don't prowl around as much. Yeah, the weekend is the best time to list your watches if you want to sell because you get the best price. But yeah, if you're looking to buy, try and avoid the weekends. Couldn't agree more. What are your thoughts on birth year watches? I recently got mine, Seiko 5 for $997. It depends on you. If if you're looking for a watch in the first place, like I've been wanting a Seiko 5 in my collection for a while now, and I found this one, which was 997, is just ticking 2 cool boxes. Just to say that the watch is as old as me is just a nice little thing that's not needed. But it's just, yeah, I don't know. It just depends on what you think. What do you think, Anthony?
I've never had the compulsion to buy birth year watches, but I was born in 1987, which to me, there's not a lot of remarkable watches from the late 80s that I really want to own.
I have one.
I do.
The 7838. That's the world's first quartz chronograph. My one is 987. The world's first quartz chronograph. So that's something, and you love quartz, so it like ticks. So
I do. It's my favorite. I know. I've owned a couple, and I just, by the way, I saw a question on Invicta. We've talked about them a lot, and there's a lot of people that hate them, understandably so. And there's a lot of stories on the internet about questionable ethics of the company, which I don't work for Invicta, I never have, so I have no idea how true some of those claims are. If you buy them at retail price, I think they're massively overpriced. But as we all know, you can find them online for like $99 all day. Like they're Swiss-made ones, and all the ones I bought under $100 I've really liked. You know, I had the ones with the Miyota, I've had the ones with Seiko movements in them, and I even had that Akula one that I did on Why He Switched Watches video, and that was a really well-made watch. The Akula Reserve, I was really impressed with the build quality on it for $100. But beyond that, as a company, their corporate culture, what they do or don't do, and you know, at retail at $1,000, they're absurd. But that's kind of my take.
I'm loving that question. Is it worth it to buy a woman a nice watch? It seems like a woman will be able to appreciate a finely made automatic watch. And I'm loving some of you guys' comments. Like, all women are different, just as all men are different. Don't forget that. Like my friend, she owns the Autodromo Stradle and a Royal Heritage, both automatic, both beautiful watches. Both from micro brands, and she's a woman and she wears them with whatever she's wearing. So all women are different. Don't forget that. So sure, some of them will want a gold, like diamond flashy thing to match their outfit or some rubbish, but not all of them are like that. So it just depends on the woman. That's my advice to you. You should know what the woman likes.
Touching on some other questions real quick too. On the eBay thing too, I want to say it is hilarious to me how many fake watches are on eBay. Every time I go on eBay, especially if I'm looking at higher end Swiss brands, I see fake Breitlings, Rolexes, Omegas all day long on eBay. And it's hilarious because they talk about how they prevent people like that and they protect buyers. And I know obviously they can only do so much, but there are so many fake watches on there. Be very, very, very careful, especially with vintage watches too. There's a lot of Franken watches where there are bits and pieces thrown together. There's a lot of scary stuff on eBay. Is Hardlex as good as Sapphire? No. But I think in everyday situations, I think it's going to serve you just fine. I mean, Sapphire is harder than Hardlex Crystal. So it's Sapphire is harder to scratch. The flip side is if you go crashing into a rock, actually Sapphire tends to crack easier than like a Hardlex would. But Hardlex is easier to scratch. I mean, there's pluses and minuses, but Sapphire is consistently harder. That said, I've never scratched any of my Hardlex Crystal, and I've never had an issue with any of it, so I don't really know that you need Sapphire. But Kurt's in the comments, and he's replaced some of his Seiko Crystal with Sapphire, so ask Kurt, and he can tell you what he thinks.
How much is a mint unopened SKX 013 worth? Probably about $200-ish. I don't know. Rough guess, probably completely wrong.
And I know, Christian, you're looking for a Sarb for $100. That's not going to happen. I'm really sorry to say. If you can get one for under 300, you're getting a good deal.
And someone asked about Steinhardt, what we think of them. I think if you like homages and you want something that's built really well, I've heard Steinhardt is great. If you don't like homages, then obviously don't buy a Steinhardt. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. I think for what they do, they offer a pretty decent price for a pretty decent watch. And people who have owned them have had nothing but good things to say about them. So it just comes down to your preference on homages, I guess. Does Amazon have used old watches? I'm afraid not, Jess, unless it's a private seller. Then it would be just like your risk with eBay.
Yeah, what you can find on Amazon, which is great, is you'll find like things that have been returned. Like when I bought my Orient Mako, my first gen Mako, I bought the watch for $80, which was a really good deal. Somebody had bought it and they returned it, so the seller put it on Amazon as an open piece with like a scratch on it. And when I got the watch, it was mint. And if I wanted to, I could have sold it on eBay for more money than that. So occasionally you find people selling like return goods for a good deal. You can definitely do that. But as far as like vintage watches on there, I wouldn't buy vintage watches on there. I mean, it'd be probably a seller linking to like their own off-store site or something. But that's not. It's new watches and like returned watches you can find on there typically.
Saw a guy selling a fake Tag Heuer and a fake 7 Friday. You know what? I've seen so many fake 7 Fridays on eBay. It's crazy. And I don't even know why, because they're not exactly crazy sought after either. It's very odd that. I don't know.
Mark, what do I make of Chrono 24? It's an awesome resource. I know a lot of people are always asking, what's my watch worth, or what should I pay for a watch? And the two things that I always go to when I want to get a sense of what I think is a reasonable thing to pay is I go to Chrono 24 and then I also go to eBay. And the way you do that to make it best for you is you need to know the model number, you need to know the condition you're looking for, and you really need to have a very good sense of what it is you're looking for, because then you can use those as a great way to get a read of the market. Chrono 24, and then if you go to eBay, type in like Rolex, if you're looking, just as an example, Rolex 16710, which is the pre-ceramic GMT master, and then click on sold listings, because people can ask whatever they want for a watch, but if a sold listing, you know that somebody actually paid that price for it, and look at that, because that'll give you a really quick snapshot of what recent ones have sold for, so you can compare what they're being listed on in Chrono 24 and then what they've recently sold for on eBay, and those two data points should give you a really good understanding of the market, and that's a really good price guide for people, and that way you can kind of set your budget appropriately. So I would, as far as buying off of Chrono 24, I've never done that, but I use it a lot as a pricing strategy.
So on so there are a lot of fake Seikos on eBay. I don't think there'll be a lot of fakes, but definitely Franken watches. There's so many Franken Seikos on eBay, so you just got to be careful, know what you're looking for. It's the same with vintage Citizens. There's so many redial of the Eagle 7s. It's ridiculous. So you got to know what you're looking for when you're buying them. So do your research before buying them, definitely.
Yeah, any of these vintage watches, there's so much scary stuff that, especially like on eBay, you see where people have just like totally molested these watches. They polish them down with the end of their life. They've, like you said, you've seen like fingerprints and stuff inside watches. I bought watches, there's like a hair or something stuck to the crystal. I mean, it's just on the inside of the case. You get some really goofy stuff that people like really mess up on the used market. Yeah, Christian, by the way, if you're going to look into the ST19, look at the Seagull 1963. I think that's a really cool watch. Really? You got a dead watch from Long Island to watch, Kurt. Yeah, I've heard really good things about them as well.
It's good they immediately send you a replacement. So that's it. Customer service matters, definitely. At the end of the day, sometimes things just go wrong and it's completely out of the sender's hands. Like it wasn't them, they didn't do it on purpose. Sometimes things can genuinely go wrong, and I think as the consumer sometimes we forget that. So when the seller puts you first, it definitely is a big deal. So it's good.
And some of this thing too, just the nature of our hobby, right? I mean, watches, the mechanical ones at least, I mean, they're mechanical and they're going to go wrong. And you know, with all things mechanical, Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong. And, you know, especially our postal systems aren't exactly the most careful with their packages. It is totally conceivable that a seller could do everything they can to protect a watch, and then some idiot throws it off the back of an airplane or a truck and breaks the watch in transit. And to James's point and what you guys are saying too, if you have somebody at the seller that's going to give you good customer service and take care of you, that goes a long way to erasing some of that anxiety or potential problems down the road.
Sometimes it's even worth a bit of a premium. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. Some people charge more, some places charge more, and that's because they genuinely do put you first, and they definitely do, you know, just make sure that you get what you pay for.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of gets difficult too is some of the watches we geek out in the community are becoming rare, which is really weird to me. Like even I was looking to see if I could get other like SRP 307 J1 Monster like my own. And it's like the ones, there's a few of them on eBay, which the prices have gone up surprisingly. But like other than that, like I was going to get one for a friend. It's like impossible to even find them from like an authorized dealer anymore. Even like the current ones are pretty hard to come by with a couple exceptions. So you almost kind of get stuck buying from just certain sources as well.
Great question. Where do you see the watch market in 20 or so years? I think a lot of people underestimate the technology of smartwatches, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, and I do think it is going to start playing more of a heavy role in watches in general, especially considering a lot of them are doing hybrids between your generic watch with the functionality of a smartwatch. I actually have a review coming out of a smartwatch that was sent to me by Andy. This is the Huawei smartwatch, so I will be doing a full review of this. My personal opinion, it's not good enough yet to take the place of a wristwatch, but the technology inside is definitely interesting. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go with it. But I don't think it will be taken over anytime soon. But I definitely see it playing a big role in the future. What about you, Anthony?
I don't really have an opinion. They don't speak to me enough to really have an educated opinion. So I'll kind of leave it there. They don't speak to me on the smartwatch thing, and so I haven't been paying attention to that market a lot. I think things are going to stay basically the same. I think we're going to see people really into like the technology side, but I think there's also going to be the exclusivity factor. I think if anything, my fear is what's going to happen with the watch market is you're going to just see a much bigger divide. You're going to see the new technology, and you're going to see that in a multitude of price ranges, and you're going to see ludicrously expensive high-end watches for people that can afford them. And I think probably a lot of like the enthusiast watches like us are probably going to go away if I was being negative and fearful about it, because I think, unfortunately, we're a small part of that market, and there's not a lot of people out there that really embrace the lower affordable watches. Most of those people our age now and older are buying the really cool smart watches, or they're buying the status watches.
Yeah, that's it. And at the end of the day, you get more status from owning an Apple Watch than you do by owning a Rolex nowadays. So things are already changing. But yeah, size of your wrist, I've got a 6 3/4 wrist. Cooper Davis. Well,
God, I can't keep up. What would you buy as a pre-owned Rolex under $3,000? Honestly, I wouldn't. But there's Rolexes under $3,000. There's not a lot of value under there. I mean, there's some of the ones from the 60s and the 70s that are like, there's the Precision line, which are manual wind watches, which are kind of cool. There's $1,600-ish, I think, around, plus or minus a couple $100 for condition. And then you've got like the dates, the Rolex dates. Those are great watches. The problem is a lot of them are 34 millimeters, which I know a lot of you guys would struggle to wear something that size. And a lot of the watches below $3,000 too are really, really old, and a lot of them aren't in that great of shape because that's just really cheap for a Rolex. I think if I was recommending somebody to get an entry-level Rolex, I would say they spend over $3,000. And to me, the best value right now in used Rolexes is the original Explorer, is the last generation Explorer 2, the one from the 90s up to the mid 2000s. Those watches can be had for about $3,600 to $3,900 at a decent. And I think at that price, you're getting a wearable size watch, a functional watch, and it's going to be always a classic, and it's going to hold its value. I'd probably start there. I'd also probably look at like a 16233 Datejust two-tone, or like a stainless steel version. There are some older versions of Datejust, but they're not quick set date, so those are a little annoying. But that's probably where I'd spend my money. I would be hesitant with a lot under $3,000, to be honest with you guys. Air Kings, though, are also that mark. They're pretty decent.
Definitely. James, I know you love your Jubilee, but what are your thoughts on the Oyster? I think it's also a great, comfortable bracelet. But personally, just for, I don't know whether it's due to the shape of my wrist or something like that, I just find Jubilees to be far more comfortable. And I prefer the way they look personally. But yeah, nothing wrong with an Oyster. I think they're also great. Can't see how watch is being used for if we live on a world with a 38-hour or 46-hour day cycle. You're talking about interstellar, like space travel and stuff. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think we'll see the end of traditional watchmaking once that happens. I think you said that earlier, didn't you, Alex? Yeah. There was another question. So just don't rival Seagull because they're Chinese. Yeah, I have to agree. At the end of the day, and again, a lot of people don't like this, but the Panerai are also Chinese, and you're getting a lot of watch for the price. If you're into that sort of stuff. Obviously, if you're not, then don't get them.
Yeah, I agree. We get so biased, and everybody. I mean, there's definitely camps that say only Swiss can make great watches, or only Japanese can make great watches. But I think most of you guys would agree, and it's definitely my perspective, that any country is capable of making a really good watch. And so to judge something based on its origin is kind of ridiculous. We just buy I mean, you can buy a well-made watch from anywhere in the world, and the Seagull makes some incredible watches. I mean, it's what it is. Are there terrible watches that come out of China? Sure, but that doesn't mean that every watch that comes out of China is total crap. Just like every watch that comes out of Switzerland isn't hot horology either. I mean, we have to be aware that there's exceptions, and that there's exceptional human beings that do really good work, and there are people that are lazy and do really crap work, and it doesn't matter what part of the world they call home, right?
Watch racism. That's it. It's watch racism.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And I know somebody asked too about the Rolex Milgauss. I think they're kind of cool. They were really kind of trendy for a while, and now they're not so much. I like the way they look, but I think they're overpriced because you don't even have a date function. I mean, there's like no complication to it, but I mean the lightning bolt hand, I think they're really cool. Yeah, the history is really cool too. And if you work in a power plant, that's kind of the best watch to own, right?
Those some rubber bands, G-Shocks or otherwise. I'm not a fan of rubber bands, but I completely understand their use and why people like them. I'm just really into bracelets and leathers, and that's it. But yeah, the ones on the G-Shocks are really comfortable. I've experienced them; they're nice. So, yeah.
Thanks for joining, by the way, Steve. We really appreciate getting to chat. I know I've seen you in the comments before. It's good to have a conversation with you. God, these comments are coming in so fast.
In some cases, the other company is higher quality than Seiko. Yeah.
What's your opinion on Seiko K models versus J models? So this goes into watch racism, and this shows my own watch racism. I think honestly, there's really no difference because, especially if you're in anything with manufacturing, and I've been in a lot of factories in my life, and I mean, companies set standards for their factories around the world. So what Seiko builds in Malaysia versus what they build in Japan is going to be built on basically the same equipment with the same standards of quality in mind. The thing is I love the idea of buying a watch that's made in the country of the origin of the brand. That's just something that's kind of cool to me. You know, it's very much thing. If I buy an American car, I want to be made in America. If I buy a Japanese car, I buy Japanese cars that are made in Japan. I know am I really getting a better car? The fact that my Lexus was made at, the factory in Japan versus, like one in Kentucky in the US, is it a better car for it? Probably not. But I think it's kind of cool as having that heritage, work on it. But the logical answer is there's no difference, and you're paying more money to have a name printed on the dial. So other reviews have pointed out there's like slightly different coloration differences and stuff, but you're not getting a better watch. You're paying for that feature of having made in Japan on the dial.
Yeah, for example, I've got the SKX 009 K2 edition, so it's the Malaysian version. And the difference between the SKX is that it says 21 joules on the dial, I think, with the Japanese version, and it doesn't on the Malaysian version, the one I've got. But other than that, they're the same watch.
Wow, this is 18 cents for a half open bag of Doritos is kind of expensive. I don't know. Where'd you get that market rate from? Complete with that form of spam. Favorite dial color? I don't have one. I think it depends on your mood and what you want to wear it with, right? There are some days that I only want to wear a white dial watch. There are some days I want to wear a blue dial watch. Some days I want to have a black. I think a luxury in watch collecting is if you can afford to have a watch of every dial color you like, then that's the best ideal, right? If I had to settle on one watch for the rest of my life, it'd probably be black just because black's my favorite color. But there's definitely days I want to wear a white watch or a blue watch or whatever. I mean, how about you, James?
Blue's just my favorite color around. Like, I just love blue. So yeah, blue watches all the way for me. If I had to choose a color, my whole collection would just consist of blue watches. I'm not gonna lie.
Have you guys looked at micro brands? I reviewed that Velaccio on my channel. Beyond that, and there's a lot of micro brands out there. I haven't really honestly given a lot of look into them. I think some of it is there's so many of them, it's so hard for me to keep track of them all. Yeah. And I think some of it too is like you're just talking about the customer service aspect. I know some of these larger brands, if I have issues with the watch, I'm not gonna have problems getting it serviced or getting people to take care of it. And that gives me peace of mind. But I think for the right price point, and if there was something that was a style that really spoke to me, for sure. I know you're asking about Borealis. I don't know a lot about them. I mean, I know what you're talking about, and I've seen them. But I know, James, you were really into Borealis for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I really wanted I think it was the Seahawk? I can't remember. It's a blue one, 1,500 meter, had the Tudor style hands. And some people were like, it's a homage to Tudor. At the end of the day, it's 1,500 meters and it was like this thick. It wasn't a homage, it just used the Tudor hands. But yeah, I really like that one. I didn't get it, but I have reviewed the Autodromo I can't remember how you're supposed to pronounce it. Stradale, thank you. I reviewed that, and it's a really great watch. Yeah, exactly. It's a really great watch. I absolutely loved it. I reviewed that, and I do have a review coming of 3 Royals, which is an Australian micro brand, which also offer really great watches for the price. So I've had my hands on a few micro brands, but nothing, not like loads yet to really judge them. But in general, it's been good experiences.
So a couple really good quick questions. Yeah, black, blue, and white do seem to be pretty common, but you can get other colors. I mean, obviously there's the Orange Monster. You know, I've seen purple on watches like the Oyster Perpetual. I actually like the purple on the dial. There are other options, but to your point, they're harder to find. You know, Typron, you asked if we could be brand ambassadors for a particular brand. I think I've said this a million times already. I would do it for Seiko. And the reason that I would do it for Seiko is I like that they have a watch for every price point. You know, you could have a very limited budget and they make a watch that you can enjoy. And as you have more funding, you can obviously buy higher and higher end pieces. I like that they make a watch for everybody. I'm not one of those people that really likes things being exclusive to certain demographics or people. And I think they have so many different styles and so many different options that, I mean, there's always going to be a watch in their collection that I'm really going to like. And that's probably the reason I would. I don't know. What about you, James?
What was the question again? Sorry, I was reading the other one.
If you're going to be an ambassador for a watch brand.
Yeah, I'd probably have to go with Seiko as well then. Yeah, Seiko's a good choice because they just offer such a great wide range of variety and everything. Definitely. There was a question here, marathon watches. Any idea why they don't hold their value? I know they're not that nice, but in my opinion, they are like tanks and well-made watches. You've kind of answered your own question there. It's kind of like a niche market, isn't it? That kind of watch. At the end of the day, marathon watches use the tritium tubes. They're made for like military use and like police force use. It's a niche. It's like G-Shocks. At the end of the day, not everyone loves G-Shocks, but they have that niche market. That's my opinion on it.
Wow, there's so many comments coming in. On the favorite Black Bay, if I was going to go buy a Black Bay, which is always a risk, I would get a black dial with a red bezel. That's probably my favorite look. Best watches pre-owned for under 3,000. Oh, okay, that's pounds. I was going to say, because the Breitling Navitimer, there aren't many under $3,000 US, but under 3,000 pounds, yeah. I would say your best pre-owned watches, I mean, that's like the $2,000 to $3,000 range. I don't think there's a lot of great watches in that price range, honestly. I think, well, it depends what you're looking for. I would look at Omega Seamasters, Omega Seamaster Chrono. I would look at older Breitling Chronomats. I would look at Cartier. If Cartier is your thing, I think Cartier makes some sexy watches. There's like the Pasha GMT. There's the Tank. There's some good watches from Cartier under $3,000. Breitling, you're not gonna find a recent Avid range, but you might find one from the 90s. You might find a Super Avenger, which would be rare. You could definitely get a nice Colt Super Ocean in that price range too. Yeah, 360 Challenge Stradale. That's probably why I know what Stradale means. Yeah, that's that old Ferrari.
Did you see that Paul Ford quit YouTube? Yeah, we were speaking about it off air and everything. It's sad to see him go. Hopefully he'll be back down the line, but obviously he has his reasons for leaving and stuff. But yeah, it is a shame. He spoke quite truthfully about the watch market and even the watch community in some videos. So it was nice to have him around, but hopefully we'll get him back. At the end of the day, he's still a watch dealer and he still runs his website and he still sells watches. So he's still doing his thing, which is good.
Yeah, again, James and I were talking about this off air actually, and you know, we weren't going to make a video. We see all these people making videos on it, and it's just like I think James and I both kind of struggle with just putting a video to get people to click on it about a person to comment on somebody else's life situation. It seems cheap, honestly. So we didn't want to get involved in it. You know, he had his reasons for doing it, and we're obviously very sorry to see him go. I know both James and I have, you know, recommended his channel on YouTube, and we thought he made great content. So I'd love to see him come back. He had an awesome perspective that's going to be missed for sure.
Exactly, and I had the privilege of interviewing him for the channel and everything, and speaking with him off air and everything. He truly was a great guy. So yeah, it is a shame to see him leave the community, but hey, he's still there. His number's still there if you want to call him and get some advice and everything. He's a great guy. So
on the IWC question, are they worth owning? I reviewed my friend Mark's on the channel. He has an IWC Mark of all watches, the 16. And he and I hang out a lot. I mean, I see his watch a lot. It's a classical Flieger style watch. It's a really cool looking watch. He was kind enough to show me. Let me take the case back off of it. And I looked at the Yetta 2892 base caliber in it, and I was not really impressed with the level of finishing or the modifications that they did to it. You know, especially if I look in comparison to like a Cal 1120 movement and like at my Seamaster and what Omega did to that movement. Some of the lower end IWCs just don't do much for me. But they have some great in-house movements for sure. The Ingenieur series, those are kind of cool, and like the Portuguese or Portuguese, if I want to go that route. That's a sexy looking watch, but they don't do much for me otherwise. But nothing against them, they just don't speak to me. Could you talk about? Oh God. So I took advantage of a market opportunity, and as you guys may remember, in the mid to late 2000s, vintage became really cool again, and so a lot of these companies were reintroducing watch styles they had back in the 60s, and I took advantage of it, and I bought a bunch of Girard-Perregaux like gyromatics and stuff from the 60s for very little money, and I sold them pretty quickly thereafter. And because the vintage market was so popular and a lot of people didn't want to spend 20 grand on like a new 1960s looking Girard-Perregaux, all of a sudden my pre-owned Girard-Perregaux became worth a lot more overnight because they were so much cheaper than the new release stock. So I made major money on them because people wanted the look, but they didn't want to spend 20 grand for a new one. And I kind of milked that for a while. But Girard-Perregaux, I really like, but they've made some bad decisions. And then it seems like any watch company that pairs with Ferrari too. Girard-Perregaux did Ferrari watches, and then Panerai took it over. It seems to really hurt people's brand. But Girard is an in-house manufacturer, and they have the lower entry level watches called Jean Richard, which are really nice too. They have some great Gerald Gento designs. I mean, they're nice watches for sure. But I would worry. I don't own a newer one just because I'm afraid of servicing costs, and the resale is just so poor. But I have a lot of respect for the brand. Yeah, I think you have a good idea there, Kurt. If I only had $500 a watch to buy, what would you buy, and would it be pre-owned or new? I already own the watches that would fall in that category: the Sarp 35, the Seiko Monster, and the Hamilton Trent. If I could get a Pan Europe under $500, I'd add the Hamilton Pan Europe to that list. I don't know, you, James?
Yeah, probably the SKX would be in there for me. Definitely under $500, it easily fits under that budget, and it's a great watch. What watches have you put through the worst? Oh, I've got the perfect one sitting here. This one's got battle scars and everything. Look at this. Lovely. That's a Ricchetta, an old Ricchetta from the 70s. Real shame. Secondo Ricchetta.
You guys aren't going to like my answer to this, but the one watch that I've really beaten the crap out of, which is nice about having cheap watches, and it's been a while, is any of you guys that have ever been to Jamaica and ever gone up like Dunn River Falls. I know it's far from a crazy adventure, but there's a lot of sharp rocks, and I took one of my fossils through that and like literally bashed into every freaking rock on the waterfall, and like I took it everywhere, and the watch looked brand new. It never lost a beat, and it had a Seiko movement in it. Was a pretty nice Seiko chronograph movement in it, and it served me well. That's the one watch I probably like really beat on, didn't worry about. It's great. Those huge diesel watches are funny. I actually bought one. I returned it in a day because I just wasn't comfortable wearing it. But they have a cool novelty factor about them, and you can buy them at a huge discount for sure if you know where to look.
Yeah, Watch Station International. I saw you out, no worries. Down from like 300 quid to 80. It's ridiculous.
Oh, Cooper, by the way, congrats on the Sarb 35. I'm really happy you're enjoying it. I hope you like it. If you like it anywhere near as much as I do, then I know that's you're going to really enjoy that watch. Kurt, I'm going to answer that question tomorrow in my next review. Bait there, but it's the Omega Seamaster Bond watch, and it's as I explained in the video tomorrow. I mean, that watch has haunted me since the first time I saw it on screen with Pierce Brosnan. I mean, that watch sucked me into watches at a level that I can't explain it, but that watch got to me. I don't know. What about you, James?
There's not really, I don't know, like it's only in the past 6 months I've started noticing watches in films as something to look at, you know what I mean? I guess, what's that TV show called? It's just left my mind. The presidential one, the TV show, it was a British one, Americans redone it. It was on Netflix. It was a Netflix original.
House of Cards.
House of Cards, yeah. Some of the watches he was wearing in that. I think he wore an IWC in one episode. Some beautiful watches he was wearing. So probably that. But yeah.
Henry, the world has come to the fact that people ask us a lot of questions and we can't answer all the comments. So we want to help you guys get your questions in or just talk with other watch people. That's what this is all about. And I'm throwing your question back at you, Kurt. How about you? What watch do you really tie to movies or TV?
If you had to choose a digital watch, what would be your preference? Mine would be a Casio, not a Casio, sorry, a Citizen Eagle. An Eagle? What am I saying? You can tell I'm tired. The Citizen, I'm giving up. What is it called? They're Eco Drives. That's what it's called. We got there. The aircraft one or whatever it is. Something like that. What about you? If you had to choose a digital watch?
It would be a Casio G-Shock. I think about it being a difficult question. It'd be a Casio G-Shock for sure. I just don't know which one it would be. But probably one with I'd probably get the one of the most ridiculous options I'd never use, like an altimeter and a barometer, and just I don't know, like whatever stupid things like you put on it. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. And actually, when you say that, Kurt, the other movie that I just thought of is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where Steve Martin has to get rid of his Piaget to get like a $50 hotel room for the night. That'd be the other one that you just reminded me of. Oh,
what
wow.
watch does Mr. Bean wear? I don't know.
Henry, okay, Rolex are explaining to me the seconds arrow. Is it supposed to stay at 12 o'clock all the time, or do you leave it running? It's supposed to be used with the chronograph. So there's a seconds indicator on the current generation with the 4130 movement that's 6 o'clock. And that's your seconds indicator. Now, I know a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll line up the seconds hand with the chronograph second hand. They'll run them in sync so that you have a bigger seconds hand. The problem is not only does that take away some of your power reserve because the watch is having to use more energy to run it, it's also putting a lot more wear on the watch in theory. And it's just not what it's made for. There's no harm in it. But that second hand is for the chronograph because the chronograph has the two totalizers. And so you can stop it, and that will keep track of as little as a couple seconds. And then after it goes over a minute, you can also use the totalizer to keep track of added minutes, added hours. So that's really what it's made for, but I know people use it for other things. So it's not that you can't use it, but it's not really what it's for. Wow. Night Type Ron, thank you for joining again, as always. Wow, so many questions.
Yeah, there's a lot. So I want to own the Seiko Paddy watch. It looks beautiful, like a more elegant version of the SKX. Yeah, it's also an improved version of the SKX as well, with the upgraded movement and all that kind of stuff. So if you've got the extra money for the Paddy, I'd personally say go for it, especially owning the SKX. The blue is nicer as well on the Paddy, so yeah.
Yeah, the Paddy is a gorgeous watch. That's that, and I mean the classic turtles obviously too, but that's that cushion case with the Paddy, the Paddy script too. I don't know, there's something about the script on the dial that really kind of does it for me. But yeah, Henry, that's a totally good question. I think you touched on something, which is a lot of people that buy chronographs actually don't even know how to use them, which and I mean, this probably isn't a great place for me to explain it, but on some of the reviews I did, hopefully I can explain it a little bit. But they're really good at timing events. There's calculations, like the chronograph. The Daytona was named after the Daytona race in Florida. And so you can calculate speed by starting and stopping the stopwatch, and then using the scale to determine how much they've traveled in that given time. You can calculate their speed. You can calculate races. I mean, there's all sorts of great features, but yeah, a lot of people just use them as a seconds hand. So I mean, that's fine too.
It's like the Yacht-Master too. Who even knows how to use that thing or what it's used for?
The regatta timer thing, yeah.
Is that what it is? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Yeah, it's for like a sailboat race where they can time like a regatta, I believe, but I don't even know that for sure.
Oh man.
Wow. Does the man who is not J. Anthony have? Does the man who? Yes. So the man who is not J. Anthony is the man also known as James. And he does have a watch channel, and I will put a link into it after this thing, but it's called itskibbletalkswatches. And James, you want to give a little short on your channel, as they should already be a subscriber of yours, and I'm really glad they're finding you now.
Yeah, I just do watch reviews. I try and be as honest as possible in them, and it gets me either people on my side or not on my side, so take it as you will. I review whatever in any price range, and I just try and find good deals at cheap as well, and try and show people who maybe don't have the most money in the world how they can still enjoy watch collecting. So that's it really.
Yeah, I mean, James and I very much have the same perspective. That's why we kind of do these things, and we're trying to get other people on here as well. As we're not the politically correct people, so we if you're looking for reviews where people, you know, just kind of list off the facts and are just like everything is great, this you're probably not going to like James's channel or my channel. But if you want somebody who's going to give you their honest opinion, I mean, James is always going to tell you what he really thinks, which is something I think is extremely important, especially in our community, which it's a lacking perspective. So I would check him out.
Yeah. And I just want to say, guys, I'm not usually this dead and look like this drained, but I've been up since 6 this morning working. I did a 10-hour shift today, so I'm quite tired. So please forgive me. Go check out my videos. I'm much more energetic, I promise.
So many, so many questions.
Shout
Timex
out
Expedition is a cool watch.
Shout out to Neri and Gloria. There you go.
Moose Clapping 11. Timex has some really nice watches for under $100. I probably would have written them off, but then I've seen them in stores and I've looked at some of the ones, and it's like the Expedition series in particular. Those are really nicely done watches, and the straps are pretty nice too for what they are. I was pretty impressed by them.
Yeah, for the most entertaining watch reviews on YouTube, go to Minute Watch. For the most entertaining on YouTube, definitely Minute Watch.
Oh, guaranteed.
100%.
And yeah, shout out to Neri and Gloria.
You guys both helped me a lot in getting informed about watches. Thank you. No problem. At the end of the day, we're a community here. It's all about learning together. Neither of us claim to know everything. Neither of us claim to even know a lot. And we're still learning each and every day. And that's the most exciting thing about this community, this hobby, this passion. It's just a constant cycle of learning. And I love it.
Henry, is it you or is Archie the best watch channel on earth? I can only guess what you meant when you said that or how that was implied. I think Archie is an extremely entertaining channel. If you're looking for watch facts, I'd probably recommend you look at people like CG or James or Minute Watch or Navsan. I think there's some other choices out there that'll probably give you a different perspective into watches than Archie will offer you. But if you're looking for a piece on life and and his life in general, I think it's a great way to learn more about him.
Yeah, or if you want to know what watches are shitters, then yes, definitely. 10-hour shifts, bro. Keep saving for that Piguet. Yeah, that's it. On that UK minimum wage hype, definitely.
Yeah, no, I know James and I mutually love Kurt in the comments, so we're going to keep making him feel awkward and uncomfortable. Keep shouting on his channel, Minute Watch. And he has another channel too, by the way, Kurt, which you better tell him about.
Yeah.
Didn't mention TGV. You've talked to him, James, before. I don't know TGV that well. I've watched some of his stuff as well. I don't know him that well.
I've spoken to him quite a few times, on and off camera, actually. He's a great person at the end of the day. And he makes his own videos. You guys know this. And if that's the kind of stuff you're into, then go ahead. We've had clashing opinions on some things. I reviewed the Jaeger watch, which I had completely different opinions to him, but that's why it's good. We have different opinions, and you know, there's no hate between anyone in the watch community with either of us two, as far as I'm aware. I don't think anyone really hates us, and that's because we don't hate anyone else. It's just one of those things. People make their own content. At the end of the day, do I like Archie's content? To be completely honest, no. But do I hate the person? Of course not. He's him, and that's who he is, and everyone should respect everyone for what they do. So, yeah, I don't dislike anyone in the watch community. I just probably don't watch them if I don't like them. Simple as that.
Amen. I mean, and you've got to say too, TGV and Archie Luxury have been very successful, and that tells you and they put a lot of effort into their product, and they're obviously doing something that resonates with a lot of people, and we wish them the best. And I mean, as I don't know either one of them personally, I mean, we could end up, I mean, they could be my best friends for all I know. You really don't know what goes on behind the cameras. There's so much that we don't see, and so you really don't get. I think that's why James and I really try to do these things, so you guys can see just how nerdy and normal we are. So it's people are people, and they're good and bad things about everybody. So nothing against anybody else. And
I personally haven't experienced anything bad from any of them, like personally. So yeah, it's just the way it is.
Kurt, you're saying Federico should be in movie trailers. I have no doubt you can do a great narration voice for movie trailers too.
He has done. He's done some of his intros in that style. They're pretty damn cool. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that, Kurt.
There is nothing cooler than dying in a plane crash while wearing a Rolex Daytona. What?
Wish it on to all of you guys. Well, thank you, Henry.
Okay,
many
that
opinion
works. I don't know that.
Yeah, that's it. At the end of the day, each person has their opinion on them, and that's the cool thing about a community. At the end of the day, there's no community where everyone likes everyone. It just doesn't exist. That's why it's a community. It's a group of people who choose who and what they like, which is the cool thing. And it's down to each individual person to decide.
YouTube is a great democracy. I mean, it's one of the few that actually you have control. So if you don't like the content, you can unsubscribe and you can downvote the videos. That's what's so great about it. So
exactly.
And the fact that everybody doesn't get along and everybody has different opinions is great too, because you get so many different perspectives. You can come up with your own perspective, which is what's awesome. You're not just getting force-fed one narrow perspective.
Exactly. The Rolex Daytona will survive. Depends.
I don't know about that. I think
I've
documented that mine
would survive a watch crash. Wow, a plane crash. I doubt any of them would.
There actually is in the September 11th museum. There actually is a Rolex date just that was the towers. It's not running anymore, but you can tell that it was a Rolex date just. But so we actually do have. Oh, hey, Grubbers. So we actually do have a sense of what those things, I guess, happens in that situation, you know, unfortunately.
Exactly. What is a good skeleton watch up to $2,000? Didn't Omega do a few? I could be completely wrong. I know there's a limited edition Seamaster one in white gold, which is way over 2,000, but I don't know if they did any others.
I'm not a big, I'll be honest, I'm not a good source for that. I don't really like skeleton watches, so I couldn't really tell you. Sorry about that. I really don't know. We already did talk about Milgauss, T-Banger. You know, in short, I don't know what you're looking for as an answer there. I think they're kind of cool. I think for what they cost, the fact that you don't even get a date indicator on them is kind of a cheap move, but they're cool. They have the lightning bolt on them. You know, if you work in a power plant and you're worried about magnetism, they're great. I actually, in my own life, have ruined a lot of watches with magnetism because I work around like surgical navigation systems sometimes, which have they use magnets for referencing, and they've actually magnetized my watches. I noticed afterwards. So a Milgauss would be a great watch for that. But and the market softened a little bit too. They were so hot, now they're not really appreciated as much. So I think they're probably going to be kind of a has-been for about 20 years, and then all of a sudden they'll be super cool again. But I would definitely rock one. It's just not on the top of my list.
Favorite watch videos are those shitty unboxing force crap where the guy is trying to figure out how the watch works during filming and can't say for sure what it does. Definitely quality entertainment, that.
Have you heard about what Swatch is doing with the ETA movements? Yeah, I've heard rumor that they're going to start backing off a little bit and letting people have more access to them. But I mean, for those of you that don't know, ETA has been the supplier for like 99% of the watch industry for watch Bosches or movement blanks. And then a couple of years ago, they decided that they were going to stop that and put them on very limited allocation. And that's why you've seen this big in-house trend, because all these manufacturers, like even Breitling and Omega, that were using ETA Bosches, well, Omega is different because they're part of Swatch, sorry. But I mean, like Breitling, for example, overnight their supply for movements was potentially going to dry up. So then a bunch of these manufacturers started going in-house, and that's why you saw that trend. And now it's interesting now that ETA has kind of backed off a bit. There was a bunch of legalities. The Swiss government was very upset, didn't want them just cutting off supply so quickly, and now they're potentially reversing it. I mean, there's a lot of backstory there. I don't really know all of it at this point, but it's. I think if anything, we should be grateful for it because it's really pushed a lot of innovations in the watch industry and a lot of people to introduce in-house calibers, which is cool too, minus the servicing cost associated with that.
Smaller size watch, you would wear anything smaller than 36. 36 is a nice sweet spot. I've got 6 3/4 inch wrists, as I was saying. It obviously 36 is a bit small, but it works in my opinion for me personally. It just depends on what you like. Like my dad owns a 32 mil rotary. No, I think it's a 30 mil rotary junior from the 40s. So you know, it's a beautiful watch, and I'd probably wear it if I wanted to. You know, so it just depends. Skeleton watches annoy me, display backs. So I quite like display backs. Skeleton watches, I'm not too sure, like the dial, no, but display backs, yeah. And
is to say the smallest watch you would wear, I would say 36 would be a cutoff for me too. I got some bad lighting going on in here. I used to have a JLC, just a sec here. I used to have a JLC that was 33 mil. It was a vintage watch, solid gold that I love, but I got rid of it because it was too small to wear. And so but I have, I'm a 6'3" guy, so it looks a little out of place on me. Whereas, a
I'm
smaller frame
5'6".
guy, probably not that big of a deal.
I'm
But
5'6", so I can pull off
you can
36
pull it
mil
off.
crazy.
Like my 38 mil Sarb, I love, but I would not be a buyer for like a Rolex Date or Air King that's 34 mil. That would be too small for me. But yeah, Grob, I'm not a big fan, like I said, of skeleton, but I do like display backs, if I'm honest. I do catch myself kind of drooling on the back of like a watch with a display back, because the movement, just seeing it move around, and when you wind it, seeing the gears click is kind of cool. Do you think the watch industry is in crisis and change in selling strategy will come soon? I mean, it's well documented that they are. And the change in leadership in China, for sure, that's really driven people away from buying luxury goods. I mean, watch sales were trending upward since 2012. And, with the China situation and obviously the potential Brexit, there's a whole bunch of factors people can guess or attributing to it. But, I mean, the reality is the sales are way down. And I think some of it, though, too, is people have been really greedy. I mean, they've been asking every year, they kept raising prices. And you look at like what a Rolex even cost 10 years ago versus now for basically the same model. It's absurd how much these things have gotten to be expensive. So I think if anything, we're going to see a lot of micro brands disappear. And, I think we're going to have to see pricing hold still, or in some cases actually decrease, because the demand's not there like it was. As with all things in life, and we saw the quartz crisis in the 70s and 80s. So there's a period for everything, and I'm sure they're going to come out of it, but you may not have all the brands that you want to see come out of this and survive this.
But also it refines the market to new technology or like new innovations and everything. Just look at what brand Seiko have done, in my opinion. It's absolutely incredible what they've done. Thought he just done a runner then. I was like, what's he doing?
So it's getting dark in here. I wanted to enlighten myself. So sorry, the sun's going down.
For a daily watch I can use and abuse for work. Tested a cheap 42 mil watch, and I hated 30 millimeter thick, stupidly big on my wrist. I'll stick up to 40, preferably 38. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just catching up on questions too. Grab, you're right. Yeah, Solita has really kind of come in, and they've really taken a lot away from what Etta did, and they're basically an Etta clone. So that's an interesting dynamic, and I think we're going to see the Chinese really take a place too with Seagull. I think they obviously brands like Sterling and Stour use them, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more common brands using Chinese-based movements, which, and I think a lot of us agree, are every bit an equivalent of a good Swiss movement or Japanese movement. And obviously you have the Miyota 9015 that finds its way into a lot of brands as well. So it's definitely created a different dynamic in the market.
Vintage Tudor, yeah, I really like vintage Tudors, so I'd have to agree with
that. Let's see. Wow, I'm so behind on comments. Urwerk are awesome. I love them. MB&F, all those like super sci-fi, crazy mechanical, like belt-driven, water-driven, crazy complication dial watches. I mean, the engineering I love it. It's so cool. So Minute Watch, you think I should get a motorcycle? So the reason I don't own a motorcycle right now is because within 2 weeks I crashed one and I had a friend killed on one. But otherwise I would own one. I love them. And knowing that I was going to go buy a ZX14 because I wanted to pull up to a Bugatti Veyron and flick them off and know they couldn't catch me. But right around the time I was actually going to go buy that, I crashed a little 250 of all things on gravel, laid it over, and was okay. And then within 2 weeks of that, a friend of mine was killed, ran into the side of a school bus. So probably not going to be getting one for a while, but I totally love them, and I know you love them as well. That's a pretty awesome dirt bike, by the way, you have.
Just trying to have their own automatic watches. Under what brand is it? Trying to use
yeah, Seagull.
Seagull, that's the one.
There's a bunch of them, but Seagull's the most prominent. Yeah, and then there's so Rolex, watch, Richemont, but there's also what's the other one? There's another big group, and I can't think of what they're called right now. It's LVMH, right? Louis Vuitton. What's that group called? But yeah. And then, Seiko's up there too. Seiko's a powerhouse.
It's different, better, more gnarly, requires a lot of skill, yeah. Off-roading definitely does.
Well, and I'll be honest too, since I'm always honest to a fault sometimes, is I'm not mature enough to have a high horsepower motorcycle. Um, there's a lot of videos that have, like, of my Corvette that if I ever put on YouTube, I'd be locked up in jail for millions of years. Because, you know, there's situations that occur in the real world where you kind of lose self-control and you end up doing things that you wouldn't do otherwise. And knowing my lapse of self-control, if I had access to like a 9-second street bike with no crash protection, I'd be a dead person in probably a week.
Well, I was let loose on a pedal bike on a BMX track, and I ripped my ear off and split my head open. So yeah, I probably wouldn't trust myself on anything like that either.
Yeah, and the off-road thing is cool too, because I'm sure everybody feels this way, but where I live, the drivers are terrible. And actually, I have a major road rage issue. But when I was living up north, you know, people, you could actually drive at the speed limit or above it, and people actually stayed out of the way. Where I live now, people ride the passing lane 20 under the speed limit, and they'll just pull out in front of you without even looking behind them when they pull into traffic. And if you're on a bike, you're going 70 miles an hour, and somebody just pulls right out in front of you, I mean, you're dead. And it's not, you could be the best rider in the world, but one idiot with poor judgment is going to be the end of you, or you're going to be a cripple for the rest of your life, which isn't great either.
Christian, I couldn't agree more. Here in the UK, there's like literally nothing like that, I've found. It would be great if there was, but I guess that's what this YouTube community is all about, you know, bringing people from all over the world together rather than in certain places. Sure, it's not like in person and everything, but it's the next best thing.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about YouTube. I mean, you know, James is talking to me in the UK right now where it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking from the US. I have friends that I've talked with in here from, you know, from China, from Malaysia, from India. I mean, the thing is, we're all the same. We all have the same passion. So, I mean, while it'd be cool to have something in your own city, I mean, we have such great technology these days that we can connect with people in the community no matter where we are. So I'm continually blown away by the people that end up like catching our content. I mean, it's amazing kind of what we take for granted these days.
Yeah, I'd love to one day, like, if my YouTube ever got to the point, like, do meetups and stuff. I think that'd be really, really cool. And also, like, I've got a video coming out soon of my dad's collection, like his full collection and update, because it's changed a lot. And I did it with him, like getting his opinion on it, on his pieces, why he got them and everything. And it was like that, talking watches a dinky kind of thing. Obviously, I didn't do it anywhere near to their level. I'm not even going to claim that. But it'd be cool to be able to do that with other people. You know, there's a lot of people I talk to privately through emails in the watch community who just have the most incredible collections. I just want to do a video with them, like, and obviously hear their actual opinions and share it with everyone, because it'd just be so fascinating. But it's just trying to find people who are willing to do that as well, and also who are nearby and all that kind of stuff, and a safe place, because in Leicester, no.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's cool too. I mean, like, you know, James and I are obviously friends besides just this, but it's like, I mean, he and I have a better friendship than some of the people that live like 2 doors down from me would. You know, it gives you kind of the ability to connect with people you would never meet in real life. Grob, by the way, remember that Rolex is a quote-unquote charity, so they're doing it all for charity, right?
Me up at McDonald's should be pretty safe. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, thank you. But yeah, James and I do put a lot of time into these things, but I know we say it. I'm sure a lot of you guys just think we're full of crap, but I mean, we like talking in the community. We're just normal watch guys like you guys. This is just us connecting and nerding out over, you know, stuff that we're passionate about. That's all it is. So we do it because we want to be connected.
I woke up at 6 a.m. today, went to work to sell watches, and not even watches that you guys would even care about, really. But I did it because I just like watches, and I like talking about watches, and I come home and I talk about watches here for hours as well. So, hey, I'm passionate about it. What can I say?
And AMS 914. Did I get a decent computer finally? I have a decent computer. It was software challenge. So I killed Chrome and I killed a bunch of other stuff, and I'm running it on Microsoft Edge, which I hate, but so far it seems to be working better. So bear with me. Otherwise, I'll go build a computer if it gets bad again. But that's where we're at. Yes, being full of crap is better than being empty and dying. That is true, Kurt. Words of wisdom, my friend. Words of wisdom. Oh, sorry, there's all these questions coming in. Serious question. What are medium-sized 37 to 40 mil sports watches that are why are more expensive than 43 mil? Why hasn't that changed for a long time? You know, I guess I haven't noticed that trend. Typically, the larger watches tend to be, I think, more for people that are looking for a watch that makes a statement, aren't really, you know, like in the horology or like the passionate collectors as much. Whereas I think 37 to 40, they're more conservative, but I think they appeal to a lot more people, so there's probably a much bigger market for them, so they can charge more money for them. I would be my guess. I really don't know, other than that tends to be a traditional size for like Pateks and other like higher end watches as well. But I guess I haven't noticed that. I mean, I think of the Speedmaster Reduced is around that range. Obviously the Submariner, the Explorer 2, the GMT Master, but I haven't noticed that, so I really don't know how to answer that.
So what's on your list next buy? Nothing anytime soon, that's for sure, with the acquisition of the Oris, but down the line, maybe an Oris 65, maybe, I don't know, maybe even push it for like a Nomos or something crazy, or a vintage Tudor. I really don't know. I've not really got any plans right now. I'm trying to stay away from that. How about yourself, Anthony?
I don't want to say it because it's like every time I say this, then I end up like buying. I'm very happy with my current collection. And there's not really anything that I don't feel like I don't have. That said, you know, and I ended up buying that Breitling Navitimer and that Omega within the course of 1 week on a whim, and I was not anticipating those purchases. I just did it. So I'm totally satiated in my collection, and there's nothing really calling to me except for maybe like a Reverso, but I'm not in a super rush to get it. And maybe a Grand Seiko too, if I ever decide that I'm comfortable making that purchase. But I'm really happy with what I have, honestly. It's kind of I feel like I should be getting some more stuff for the channel, but I don't really need anything. If we looked at any watches from Kickstarter, if any, would you recommend some? My only experience is the one I did a review on, which was the Veloccio Avantium, which you can see on my channel. I think for the right person, I think that's a great watch. I think there's a lot of bang per buck. I know Kurt, who's still in the comments, who apparently is so busy editing stuff but can't actually join our conversation live, reviewed it and liked it as well. But that was a nice watch for what it was. I thought that had some good qualities to it, but that's my only experience. I don't know, you, James?
Great. I have one incoming in December. I kickstarted it ages and ages and ages ago. It's from a company called Rivolo. I've not mentioned it in the videos because obviously I haven't received it, so I don't want to promote them before receiving it, but it's a custom made watch on their website. It's like that Nike thing that you can, or Nike if you're American, where you can do your shoes, you can custom make your shoes and get them ordered. This is, you can do the exact same with watch, size, movement, dial, hands, bezel,
James, you still there?
Insert, everything. Hello? Yeah? Oh.
You there, James?
Yeah, hello.
You just freeze framed on me.
I'm watching the
by the
stream
way,
back. I was fine on that, I think.
Okay, that's good. So maybe it's just my computer. AMS 914 Reverso versus Tank. Reverso. Well, you're saying aesthetically it's a personal thing. I like them both. I think they're both great watches. But the Reverso is an in-house movement. It's a timeless watch. It's a heritage watch that's been in their collection for a long time, and it's a classic. I mean, the Tank is a classic to Cartier too, but the Reverso with the in-house manufacturer, it's a better. I think it's a better watch, but it costs more too. So I mean, there's that too. But the quality and the movement, the Reverso is superior to the Tank. It just is. I mean, that's what it is. But the Tank has a good, typically has a good, Swiss embossed movement in it, and it's a classic style, and it's a lot cheaper than the Reverso typically too. So it's not a bad watch at all. I would totally wear one.
It's got great history too.
Yeah, a lot of women do wear the Tank. That's true, Rob. But if you like the watch a lot, don't worry about what people think about you wearing it, right? Wow, I'm actually losing my voice now.
Sadly, I don't think more women notice well-made watches. If you're trying to use a watch to get women's attention anyway, I think you're already off to a bad start. Just don't use your watch like that. just have a good watch.
What do we do? What are we compensating for?
Yeah.
Be proud of who you are. Don't bribe. Well, I'm not even just penis jokes too, but I think there's people on YouTube too that I'm not going to name, but there's a lot of people buying things to give a certain persona to the world because they're not comfortable with who they are.
Yeah.
And if you want to get, and if you want to attract a relationship with whatever, I mean, make sure that that person is attracted to you because of you and is actually going to give a shit about you and not what you have, right? Because if a woman just decides to date you because you have a watch that she likes, does she really like you, or is she just like what's in your bank account? Is that really going to be a great long-term relationship for you, right?
Exactly.
Whereas if somebody appreciates you as you are, I mean, if you want to have a real meaningful relationship, then you need to be yourself around everybody, especially people you hope on dating, because otherwise you're gonna have a. I mean, it's I don't know. It comes with, I guess, maturity. No.
Try doing 8 hours and see how your voice is. I've been doing 10 hours of talking at work. I'm dying here. It's crazy.
Yeah, Grab. I know you. I've been catching your live streams. I watch you usually. And actually, I borrowed one of your jokes, by the way, which I don't want to send here, but it was about a gentleman coming into some money at an ATM. I thought that was a pretty funny joke. But yeah, I mean, again, why do people notice you? And I think that the reverse is true too. I mean, I fall into the trap where I don't want people like reading too much either, because I think if you just judge somebody on one situation and you see one snapshot of them, you really don't understand the full person either. You really have to be careful to try to understand them and get to know them better too, because you can make snap judgments that are inaccurate. But because there's so much more to a person than what watch they have on their wrist, or I mean, I don't know.
Exactly.
It's a very philosophical question, and we don't have to go there, but there's a lot to it.
Definitely is.
All right, you have a question. You want to get a different strap. How hard is it to remove a metal strap from the spring bar? With it's not hard at all. Just get a jeweler's set of screwdrivers, like a micro screwdriver. It's actually really easy. Or if it has like a hole in the side on the case, if you can get like a needle spring bar for a reason, and they're very springy. And once you get it where the spring bar can be removed, I've had it more times than I can count, shoot halfway across the room, and I'm digging through carpet trying to figure out where in the hell it went. So be prepared for the spring bar to come out as you're taking it off of the case.
Definitely. In a bit, Renzo.
Yeah, thanks Renzo for stopping by, man. Yeah, I'm wearing the Vostok now too, bro.
I'm going to probably review my dad's in a couple of weeks.
So, I don't know. We probably should have to wrap this up right now. I'm losing light here and my voice is going out. And I know for my UK friends, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm so sorry, James.
No worries. I enjoy it.
So let's see. Yeah, you can use your fingernail too. Well, the thing too is, depending on the spring bar they use, some are really easy to remove. And other ones, even with the right tool, are like literally my Omega Seamaster took me 20 minutes to get it off. And my friend was laughing at me. He's like, "You're just an idiot." And he took his own professional tool, and then he sat there and was cussing at it. I'm like, exactly. It's not as easy as sometimes they use these spring bars where you get one side out and then the other side locks in harder. It's just a pain in the ass. Oh, I cussed. Sorry. Thank you, by the way. I do want to get into more philosophy stuff, but I don't know if my general audience would appreciate that. But I mean, I see so many people suffering and making bad decisions. I'd really like to prevent people from doing the same stupid things that I've done. So I'm glad you appreciated that. Yeah, so any last minute questions before we wrap this up, guys? And then thanks to all for you who have joined us and stayed with us for this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, Grab, if you start restoring old Seikos, I may have to borrow your skills. I really love the old speed timers, and I had to get rid of mine recently because I couldn't get them fixed. Yeah, Christian, that's a good tip. So I guess on that note, you know, again, we love being a part of this community. We love talking with you guys. Thank you all for taking time out to join us. It's great. It may probably be another couple weeks or so until we do this. We'll try to get other channels on here. We've been trying to get CG on here for a while and a couple others, and just have great discussions about watches and just, you know, enjoy the hobby. So thank you all so much for tuning in and hanging out with us.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for having me as well.
You guys are great. All right, we'll go ahead and sign off. Thanks, guys.
Take care.